Late word of a strong earthquake hitting off the coast of central Chile, though no immediate reports of damage or injury. It's a preliminary magnitude 6.8 quake. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KWMT News Update, I'm Rob Jones. Officials say an Iowa man who was honeymooning in Florida drowned when he was swept out to sea during his first time in the ocean. The St. Johns County Sheriff's Office incident report says 22-year-old Dalton Cottrell of Malcolm, Iowa, went swimming Tuesday at Crescent Beach, south of Jacksonville. A beachgoer heard screaming from the water and grabbed a paddleboard, joining a lifeguard who went to the rescue. The report says they found Cottrell and brought him back to the shore, but he died. Officer Chuck Mulligans, a spokesperson for the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, he says he believes that Cottrell got swept into a rip current.
The ocean floor, as it approaches the shoreline, changes. And occasionally there will be an area that dips down. And so as the water comes into the shore and it starts to ebb back out, so it flows in and it begins to ebb back out. And as it ebbs out, it finds these pathways. The water sweeps out much faster. You can literally be in an area that's 5 foot wide and the water is rushing back out into the ocean. And so the belief is that he was in one of those areas. It's pretty common, unfortunately, to happen. But if you've never been in the ocean before, if you're not familiar with these rip currents, what we find is many times people will panic. And then they fight and they struggle until they're exhausted. So the belief is that, he got caught up in a rip current because they were just simply in the water and then he was swept out a little bit, went under, and did not come back up on his own.
Cottrell's wife told St. Johns County Sheriff's deputies it was his first time in the ocean. She told the deputies she tried to help, but he was struggling and pulled her underwater. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Cady is slated to serve a one-year term in each of those positions. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. A train derailment is under investigation in northwest Iowa. Here's Radio Iowa's Doug Bruke with more.
On Wednesday at 8:32 p.m., the Sioux County Sheriff's Office received reports of a train derailment that occurred on the BNSF Railway about 5 miles northwest of Hull. Upon further investigation, responding personnel discovered that approximately 25 of the 83-car train had derailed. The train cars consisted of refrigerated, tank, freight, and rock cars. The specific contents of the derailed cars is unknown at this time and being assessed. No injuries were reported. The investigation is continuing. Doug Bruke, Radio Iowa, Sioux Center.
The Homicide and Other Violent Crimes program will be having its third annual Teed Off Against Violence golf tournament fundraiser this Saturday at Lakeside Municipal Golf Course here in Fort Dodge. The tournament also will feature a silent auction. It'll have a 9 a.m. shotgun start. Here's Marie Harvey from the Homicide and Other Violent Crimes program on the objective of the event.
The whole goal is to raise funds and awareness that benefit the Homicide and Other Violent Crimes program. We serve 15 counties in north central Iowa, and so the money that we raise goes back to providing services for survivors that have been affected by homicide or any other violent crime.
For more information or to register, call Marie or Heather at 515-955-5677. That's 515-955-5677. Authorities say 2 people were rescued after their inflatable raft overturned on a river in downtown Des Moines. Des Moines Fire Department spokesman Chris Clement says the raft was upended Monday night as it went over a Lowhead Dam on the Des Moines River near the Scott Avenue Bridge. Crews dropped rescue ropes for the man and woman. The 2 clung to the ropes and struggled to keep above the onrushing water despite wearing life jackets. Police say rescuers shouted instructions and encouragement as they pulled mightily to maneuver the pair onto a concrete structure in safety. The two were taken to a hospital and soon released. Authorities have not released the identity of the couple. For KWMT from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Skies will become mostly sunny here this afternoon with a high into the low 80s. Southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 62. By Friday, sunshine, a high around 81 degrees. Then by Saturday, mostly sunny, high of 83. Sunday, plenty of blue skies and sunshine, a high of 85. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 79.
Every month after paying my bills, I used to wonder if I'd have enough money left to buy groceries. Sometimes I did. A lot of times I didn't. Then I learned about 211. It's the number seniors can call for help finding food. With their help, I found a food pantry near me. Now I don't have to wonder if I'll be able to afford groceries because there's plenty of food for everyone. Call 211 for help finding healthy food near you. Brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Health.
Have the talk of the lifetime with the ones you love.
This card asks what events in our nation's history had an impact on you and how.
Pearl Harbor was on my 10th birthday, December 7th, 1941. That was the start of World War II. I was doing the farm chores with my brother, and the vet came to check our cows and told us all about it. It was a scary time.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
What another beautiful day in Fort Dodge, Iowa. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. We're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Joining me here today is Amanda Warren of Market on Central. So you wandered into my studio again there, Amanda.
Yes, I did. Here I am.
That's all right. Where are you from again, Amanda?
I'm from Fort Dodge.
Fort Dodge. Yeah. St. Ed's, Senior High?
Senior High.
Okay. All right. Is that a married name, Warren, or is that the name you were born with?
Yes, married name.
Married name. What's your husband do? I'm going to be nosy with you on the air. I'm going to ask you all these small town guy questions. Right. Well, where are you from? Who do you belong to? What does your husband do, really?
He farms with his dad part-time, and then he also works for a co-op in northwestern Iowa.
Well, that's a lot of guys do that. That's for sure. That's a lot.
He's a good farm boy.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that at all. Amanda Warren's our guest with Market on Central. So, as you probably know, we're down to 3 Market on Centrals every year. And we're coming up on the 3rd and last one, and that is coming up next week, August 8th on Thursday evening. Is that correct?
Yep. It'll be from 4:30 to 7:30.
4:30 to 7:30. And you have had terrific entertainment on the corner there.
Yes.
Every single time. The other two times. The first time were those, there were 5 of them.
Yes, it was Jive for 5.
Jive for 5.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And they're local guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
A horn section, a brass section.
Mm-hmm.
Just terrific. I could have listened to them for quite a while.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
And the last time we had Market on Central, that would have been Saturday morning.
Yes.
On a Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the entertainment then?
We had Rowan McCartney and friends.
Rowan McCartney and friends. They were good.
Irish experience.
That's right. They were. I was down there getting my zucchini bread and a few other things.
Very good.
I don't know where my sweet corn guy from Barnum is this year, but we got to get him down here. And this next Thursday, then, who do we have as far as musical?
Yes, we have the Gabriel Alves Trio playing.
Look out!
Mm-hmm.
Where are they from?
They play around here. They all. Okay. I think they all live in Fort Dodge now.
Do they really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Gabriel, Alex Trevino, and Jake Merritt.
Alex Trevino.
Yes.
No, Tito's son. I'll just bet you.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And this is so. Did I hear you say 2 female and 1 male then?
No, they're all male.
They're all male?
Yes.
Wow. Gabrielle is a man then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, Gabrielle. I just, I really like the name, but I didn't mean to be insulting by any means.
No, he's a great jazz pianist.
Jazz pianist?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
They're going to be awesome.
I love jazz. The first job I had in radio was at National Public Radio here in town, KTPR Radio. I think it's still here. And I had a Sunday night jazz show, Michael Devine in the Nighttime, my kind of jazz. Now, I didn't believe how popular it was at the time. This would have been 35 years ago, at least, probably a little more than that. And I would get requests from Ames. A lot of the university guys down there listened and loved it and waited for that show. Not for me necessarily, because they were jazz guys.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, they didn't have, it was a whole different world then. They didn't have any other place to go to listen to jazz on the radio. And certainly online was out of the question. We didn't even know what that meant yet. But yeah, there's a big jazz fan base out there. It surprises you. You know, you think we'd still be listening to George Strait all the time, but it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. Mm-hmm. How many vendors do we have this time around? Have we struggled to get vendors this year?
No, I feel like we've had some good numbers, but just because of weather and, things that pop up,
mm-hmm.
It's been a struggle to make sure they do come after they've signed up. So this week we have 31 vendors. It is our biggest market of the season. So we're going to go out with a bang
31.
This year.
Okay.
Yep.
What sort of vendors do we have?
I think our newest vendor is called Love's Wooden Clocks. They make these really beautiful clocks.
Really?
All sizes. I think
Love's Wooden Clocks.
Yeah. I think they're out of Webster City.
No kidding.
So this is their first time being a vendor here at Market.
Well, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. And then we've got all our usuals. We've got all our good foods. Grubhub will be here. Jackson's Baked Goods, Smuck's Kringla, Old Boston's, of course. And then Lynch Farms will be here with their
that's my guy there, Tim
Yes.
Lynch and his wife from Barnum. I haven't seen him at Market this year.
Yeah. No, I think they were going to be here last time, but all they had was green beans. So they didn't think that would be worth it.
No, I've had Tim's stuff for off and on for quite a while. They probably have sweet corn by this time.
Yeah, I think so.
So that'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be good. By the way, try their popcorn over there. They do a pretty good job with that. So, well, that's great to hear. So it's this Thursday night starting at 4:30 until 7.
Yeah, 7:30.
Okay. 7:30.
Yep, 3 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, do you know who comes the farthest for these Market on Centrals?
Ooh.
Ooh. Dude, a little Jeopardy going for you here.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
Do.
I don't know.
Do. Okay.
Nope, I have no
Don't
idea.
know. All right. That's all right. That's all right. Is there anybody else besides those people that you just mentioned? Because I have a music box at home. I bought at Market on Central. A guy from Eagle Grove used to come all the time. And then there was a guy who had, he was from Humboldt, and he had little post office boxes. Somehow he got, they tore an old post office down, and he made little banks.
Oh, cool.
Like piggy banks out of the old post office boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a little key or a combination, and you could, take the money out if you needed to. The side door would open, and the slot was on the top where you could put money in. Why I didn't buy one, I don't know. I screwed around and didn't get it. Now I haven't seen him since. Big mistake.
Uh-huh.
So how have you enjoyed your tenure as the director of Market on Central this year?
Well, I really am just the chair. I would say Lydia is the official director.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she's the lady in charge.
Okay. She tough to work for. Lydia's tough, isn't she? She's a driver.
Yes, she definitely is. She knows what she wants.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
Do you and her then work together on getting vendors, or does she just
really
dump the whole thing on you?
No, honestly, I think she found most of the vendors this year.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Good.
She contacted most of the vendors, all of our returning vendors. She found some new ones.
Lydia's a very sweet girl. I don't know
Yeah.
how anybody says no to her,
Yeah,
Will you
she's
be
done
on
an
Market
awesome
on
job.
Central? Okay. No.
Yeah, no, she's doing a great job. We love having her
Oh,
in that position.
There's no doubt. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. So, what comes next for you then after Market on Central is over with?
I'll just go back to my winery job.
Okay.
No,
So you're
honestly, Market doesn't take up a lot of time for me. We meet a couple times a month usually. And then we're going into harvest for the grapes.
You have grapes?
Yes, our grape harvest.
No
the winery.
kidding. Okay, for the winery.
Yeah, That's in about 2 weeks. We're going to be starting that.
So is your winery one of the vendors at Market on Central?
Yes. I'm with Soldier Creek. We'll be there.
Okay.
And Backcountry Winery out of Stratford will also be there.
Okay. But you have nothing to do with Backcountry Winery.
No.
Right. Yeah. Yours is, you just sell yours through Soldier Creek?
Yep.
Okay. Is that separate from any other business, Soldier Creek Winery?
It's just its own winery.
Right. It's a standalone winery. Yeah. Was my question.
Oh, gotcha.
There's a couple other businesses around there named Soldier Creek this or that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was kind of wondering if you were attached to them anyway, but
Nope.
obviously you're not. Well, that's interesting. You're going to do a great, Dallas Clark of former University of Iowa, great tight end and Indianapolis Colt football player. His family had a winery up in the Livermore area.
Yeah. There's this train wreck
There's this train
winery. Yeah.
They had one up in Algona. I know they turned an old
Yes,
railroad
that's that
station.
one.
That's that one.
Mhm.
Are they still in business? Do you know?
Yeah.
I suppose you winery people.
Yeah.
Those of you, there can't be that many of you who grow grapes in Iowa. I don't think. What made you and your husband decide to get into that business?
Really, it was my parents.
Your parents?
Yeah. They were the deciders. We used to have hogs, and one of our buildings burned down. So in its place, we planted some grapes.
Outstanding idea.
Mhm.
Lord knows we have enough hogs.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Not that I don't appreciate pork, because I do. But that's terrific. Yeah. So do your folks still farm at all or not?
Yep. My
Corn
dad
and
still
soybean,
farms.
or-
Yep. Corn and soybeans.
But how many acres do you have in grapes then?
We have about 10 acres.
In grapes?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah. It's
That's
more than
interesting.
enough.
The things you don't know that go on in your own backyard,
Mhm.
they have a few years ago, Greg Horowitz, the pork producer, started talking about aquaculture here in Iowa. And then there was actually a fish growing place in Webster City.
Mhm.
Guys coming up with different ways to supplement their income. And it's very interesting. There was some people in eastern Iowa who were, the wife was a retired school teacher, but I believe he was a retired farmer, or he was still farming. They started raising, I don't know if it was raising insects or how they were doing it, but they would send insects to candy companies. Are you ready for this? Because they were protein. They would grind up insects and send them to candy bar companies somewhere because that was allowed as a protein.
Wow.
And that's what I said. Didn't slow me down. I
Yum.
keep eating candy. Yeah. Well, I worked in a butcher shop too, and I still love hot dogs, but you never want to see them made,
Sure.
You don't want to see sausage made
That's
either.
true.
There's a lot of things that happen on the farm.
That's
Anyway,
very
what
true.
else can we say about Market on Central?
Well, I did want to mention our sponsor for this week is Fort Dodge Ford Toyota.
Outstanding business.
Yes. So they will be there, I believe, with a booth as well.
Good.
So
I have a Toyota right out front that I bought there.
Perfect. Yeah, we're excited about that. And then we also do have the C-SPAN buses driving into town this next week.
And they want to show us how smart they are or find out how smart we are.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They have an interactive bus. So I think you can get in the bus and see what kind of multimedia things they have going on.
It's excellent. Okay. So Thursday, August 8th, downtown Market on Central starting at 4:30.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else we need to know?
I think that's about it.
You
We
think-
hope
you thi-
everyone can make it.
I'm sure they can. Amanda Warren's been our guest. Thank you, Amanda. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Okay, here we go. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge 224. Managing for profit, the news, obituaries, all that stuff is coming up. Senator Tim Kreinberg in the next hour. Mike Owen of the Iowa Policy Project in the next segment. Thank you very much.
All night long, trying to solve a problem. Well, it's almost dawn. Ain't no time for sleeping. If our love is wearing thin, 'cause I ain't giving up. You ain't giving in. No matter love starts water every day.
Low commodity prices bring stability to used farm equipment market. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. It's been 7 years since corn was above $6 a bushel, and a sales manager with Case IH says buying patterns have changed dramatically in the years that followed. While the rush on new equipment fizzled out, Tony Randall tells Brownfield used machinery has gained in value. More after this.
Iowa farmers are continually striving to improve the quality of our land so future generations can continue farming these acres. And it starts by working together to incorporate more sustainable practices in our fields. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship works with farmers and landowners to implement proven conservation practices that protect water quality and improve soil health. Farmers can sign up now for funding to help offset the cost of trying a water quality focused conservation practice like cover crops. Apply now through your local soil and water conservation office.
Time. It's the eternal measure for growers everywhere, influencing the ebbs and flows of every season. Through it all, Nutrien Ag Solutions stands with you, offering agronomic power, local expertise, and access to solutions to help you lead the field. Because the time to act is right now. Find your local crop consultant at nutrienagsolutions.com.
Tony Randall is a sales manager for Case IH in the Red River Valley. He tells Brownfield the struggling ag economy continues to impact his business.
It's definitely changed guys' buying patterns. We've had some folks who have put off that normal, they like to trade combines at 800 hours. We've got guys now with 1,000, 1,200 hour combines. They're chomping at the bit to get that combine traded out. And we have seen some of those guys trade this year. It has just become a situation of, I put the pencil to it. I can make this work. We're going to have to do it. We need to do it. I hear all those different statements made out there. But those high flying years that we saw a while back when 300 hours was a lot on a combine, those are gone. And I think it's helped give some stability to our market because that was really tough for our dealers because there was a huge amount of late model trade equipment, low hour trade equipment that came in and no one was in the market for that used equipment. What the commodity prices have done is they've helped stabilize that market and put people back in their normal buying cycles and their normal buying trends. The guy who buys a 600-hour used combine, he's buying a 600-hour used combine, not a brand new combine.
Recognizing corn is back above $4, Randall says he'd like to think equipment sales are going to pick up.
I like to optimistically think that we'll see some spike, but at the same point in time, I know a lot of guys are going to be real concerned about firming up that bottom line, firming up that balance sheet. And rather than going out and just going on a buying spree, they're going to look to keep some of that money in the bank, keep it around, help themselves out because is this the new cycle? Is this the new start, or is next year going to be a back down into the doldrums? And we need to have ourselves prepared for it.
Yeah, as you're well aware, that working capital has eroded the last few years.
It has very definitely, and I've had some producers that we've had great relationships with, and then they've flat out explained to me where exactly they are in the situation, and it's a tough situation to be in, and I firmly understand where they're at. I grew up a child of the 70s and wanted to come out and farm in the 80s. And from entering college in 81 till the fall of 83, I watched our farm erode away and helped put a farm sale together in 83. So
Brownfield spoke to Randall at the recent Ag PhD Field Day near Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Data from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers says total farm tractor sales in June were down 3% compared to June 2018. However, year-to-date sales of tractors and combines are pacing ahead of a year ago. With Managing for Profit, I'm Mark Dorenkamp on Brownfield.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now 800-681-9041. 800-681-9041.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50% of its electricity from renewable sources. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine with the weather. First of all, 75 degrees, beautiful day right now. Sunny today with a high of 81 overnight. Partly cloudy with a low of 62. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 81. Saturday, sunny with a high of 83. Sunday, sunny with a high of 85. Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 86. On Tuesday, it'll be sunny with a high of 84. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high of 82. Right now, again, 75 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Bruce Hovey of South Sioux City, Nebraska, has passed away at the age of 70. He passed away on Tuesday. Mr. Hovey will be cremated. Dean Konvalinka has died at the age of 69. Mr. Konvalinka's funeral is tomorrow at 10 o'clock here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:34 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 75 degrees. Mike Owen of the Iowa Policy Project coming up right now. Here's Dwayne Murley and the closing market report.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 7.5 to 392 3/4. December down 7.5 at 402 1/2. March down 7 1/4 cents at 413 1/4. May down 6 1/4 to 419 3/4. August soybeans down 17 cents at 847. September down 16 1/4 to 852 3/4. November down 16 1/4 to 865 1/4. January beans down 16 1/4 to 878 3/4. September wheat down 11 1/2 at 475 3/4. Soybean meal down $5 a ton to $293.20. August live cattle up 97 cents at 107.87. October up 107 at 108.72. August feeders down 30 cents at 141.22. September down 92 at 141.52. August lean hogs down 252 to 76.80. October down 352 at 67.47. I am Dwayne Murley.
Iowa farmers are continually striving to improve the quality of our land so future generations can continue farming these acres. And it starts by working together to incorporate more sustainable practices in our fields. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship works with farmers and landowners to implement proven conservation practices that protect water quality and improve soil health. Farmers can sign up now for funding to help offset the cost of trying a water quality focused conservation practice like cover crops. Apply now through your local soil and water conservation office.
If you're drowning in IRS tax debt, please get ready to take down this number to take advantage of the new IRS tax forgiveness programs. The IRS has recently hired private debt collection agencies to start collecting your outstanding taxes.
Prior to calling Superior Tax Relief, I owe the IRS $33,000, and my wages had just been garnished. Superior Tax Relief put a stop to the garnishment and was able to resolve my tax problem. I walked away owing close to nothing. I would highly recommend Superior Tax Relief. They saved my life.
We can protect you from the added fees and negotiate your tax liability. Superior Tax Relief can set you free from your tax issues. Call Superior Tax Relief to find out how you can qualify for the Fresh Start program that's now available. Don't hesitate. Call today. Call 800-711-5099. The consultation is free. The information is free. This call could save you thousands. Call 800-711-5099. 800-711-5099. That's 800-711-5099.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Ernie's Harley-Davidson, Cactus Family Farms, and Alpha Media present our Hogs for Heroes Honor Ride Saturday, August 10th. Be at Fort Dodge Ford between 9 and 10:30 to register. Then it's kickstands up for 150 miles of wide-open fun on the road. Our Hogs for Heroes stops include the Co-op Bar and Grill in Pomeroy, River Valley Orchards in Humboldt, Johnny's Bar and Grill in Wesley, the Blue Moose Saloon in Renwick, Ernie's Harley-Davidson in Algona, and Miller's Landing in Humboldt, where you can listen to live music, eat great food, and bid on your favorite items in the silent auction. Entry fee is just $15 a rider or $25 a couple. All proceeds go to the Brushy Creek Honor Flight. Get a free Hogs for Heroes t-shirt while supplies last. Pre-register until August 8th at yourfortdodge.com to reserve your spot and t-shirt. This special event is sponsored in part by the Western Edge in Humboldt, Iowa Outdoor Store, Hardware and Rental, Fort Dodge, Riddle's Jewelry, Fort Dodge, and Zinnel Roofing, Humboldt. Fire up your bike, your car, your truck, even your minivan for the Hogs for Heroes Honor Ride, hosted by Ernie's Harley-Davidson, Cactus Family Farms, and Alpha Media. We ride so they can fly.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. We have 60 rounds of freedom available here at all times because we are a free country. I happen to be the only radio announcer in the country with his own nuclear weapons. But I won't nuke Mike Owen of the Iowa Policy Project because Mike brings the information. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, Doctor of Truth.
Doctor of Truth, absolutely. You know, in the 80s, I was a rock and roll disc jockey, and I always I had a nuclear bomb sound effects. As a matter of fact, I still do here. but I only use it anymore because if someone says public safety as a reason for public policy, I know that's baloney. So I hit them, and I hit them with a nuclear bomb sound effect. You know,
Now, why is that baloney?
why? What do you mean, public safety?
Isn't public safety an important thing?
Well, every time we are hit with public safety, it seems like there's a profit motive involved.
Okay.
In the case, in the most notorious case here in town, we started getting those speed camera cars. Oh, it's for public safety, public safety. Then finally, after a lot of cajoling and belly aching by me, it turned out that they made this agreement with an out-of-state money machine to fund 2 police officer positions here in town that they didn't want to raise taxes for. So there we go.
Okay.
But I don't know. Could you think of any other public safety boondoggles?
Boondoggles?
Boondoggles.
I want to make sure that we have enough police and corrections officers to do the job so that they keep the streets safe and also that they're not put in danger.
But don't you live in Iowa City where everybody's super mellow all the time?
You've been here on Saturday nights, haven't you?
Oh, a few times. Well,
Okay.
super
mellow isn't always.
I heard you imported a lot of trouble down there. Way to go.
So right now the students aren't, well, they're starting to come back. So
They are starting to come back. When do classes start there? Before Labor Day or after?
I think it's 4.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is.
So
anyway, the Iowa Policy Project is a group in Iowa City who does research and presents papers that they hope will affect public policy. And of course, Peter Fisher. I haven't talked to Dr. Peter Fisher in a long time. He is a recognized regional expert on TIF, or David Osterberg, of course, who is a water quality expert, and Mike Owen, a longtime reporter for the Davenport newspaper. What is the Davenport newspaper's name? I forget now.
Quad City Times.
And it's a great newspaper, too. I think it's one of the better newspapers in the state. It went down some when Mike left, of course, but but
I left a long time.
I
worked for the Associated Press after that, and then I have my own weekly newspaper. So
where was the weekly newspaper at?
West Branch.
Oh, West Branch, of course. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, weekly newspapers. I hope they're doing okay. They up in my
well, home. What's one of the big changes there is weekly newspapers used to be very independent, locally owned operations.
Yes, yeah.
And now a lot of them are chain enterprises.
Oh, definitely.
like other media, it's unfortunate because it does change the nature of the product. I hesitated before calling it a product because I always thought of the weekly paper or even the daily papers as institutions, but not
sure.
But I less and less think of them that way.
Well, they're not the institutions that they once were, for the reason we're talking about. The Fort Dodge Messenger here in town is a 7-day-a-week newspaper. I think they can get by with 3 days a week, but they're still a 7-day-a-week newspaper, and they're owned by Ogden Newspapers, which owns, 40 newspapers or some ridiculous thing like that. I know the Press Citizen there in Iowa City, which used to be a uniquely little Iowa City paper, is owned by the Des Moines Register, and the Des Moines Register in turn is Gannett, out of San Francisco. And Gannett, by the way, is relentless in their advocacy for illegal immigration to our country. And they are relentless in that regard because of the big farms out in California where they're located. And that's why Nancy Pelosi and some of the big West Coast Democrats are in favor of illegal immigration. It's not that they're so compassionate. It's just that some of their biggest financial supporters in California demand that sort of labor. And that's, I've always accused Art Cullen. Now, I know you're going to be mad at me for this, but Art Cullen won a Pulitzer Prize. And Art's the owner of the Storm Lake Times, one of the newspapers that actually is independent. He and his brother John own the paper. But Art has been relentless in support of cultural diversity and multiculturalism and on and on and on. And what he never really talks about is that the drivers of the economy in Storm Lake and Buena Vista County are the packing plants that depend on cheap labor, not demand it. So Art Art and the Democrats and many others are in service to some very large corporate interests. So, as a matter of fact, Steve King believes that big ag interests in his congressional 4th district are behind the effort to take him down, or at least part. But I'm doing all the talking here, Mike.
But he
I'm
probably
sorry.
accepted all their support for many years.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. His I mean, the Iowa is the Iowa congressional 4th is very rural.
Well, as always, I'll let the politicians do what they're going to do. And
Yeah.
we'll try and look at some other.
Let's talk about jobs as long as we are.
Well,
are we
yeah,
going to
and
talk
actually,
about?
I guess I'm not going to just let the politicians do what they do with that comment, because this is one of the reason I wanted to talk to you about jobs. Is we haven't talked since the last monthly jobs report came out from the state, which was for June. So the report comes out once a month, and it came out in July with the June numbers, and it was a very good month in June. It was an increase of, I believe, 5,600 jobs in 1 month. Which, boy, if we had that kind of job growth all the time,
It'd be all right, wouldn't it?
we wouldn't have any trouble. But it was a real outlier, and we've always said that you need to look at these monthly job reports in a much larger context. You know, what has been the trend over the last several months? What's been the trend over a year? How does it compare with previous years? Good years, not so good years, even the Great Recession. And what really got me about the last job report, these come from the Iowa Workforce Development State Agency.
Okay.
And they should be, again, you know, I'm going to be something of a purist on these things.
Purist.
Those kinds of things should not be interfered with by the politicians. Something on basic data releases, you know, things like that are just fundamental for people to understand what's going on. Let the agency do what it does. Let the professionals do what they do. That's what we hire them for. And instead, the governor's office couldn't avoid, my gosh, we had a 5,600 job month. We have to jump on that press release and say how great a job we're doing. When the month was a great outlier. We've had job growth in only 3 of the last 6 months, and about 7, I believe, of the last 12 months. And the net job growth over that time is very low. In fact, it averages over the last, through in 2019, it averages only 300 jobs a month. So we're going to get out there and prattle on and on about how our tax policies and so forth are doing such great things based on 1 month of job growth. It was obscene. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And we were talking a little bit before about media and how things have changed with concentration of media and so forth. Well, part of it is that you don't have a lot of reporters out there looking at these things anymore. And there's just less incentive, it seems, to hold people accountable for what they're doing and to put some perspective on that, which is one of the reasons we think we're here. It's one of the reasons we tell people, hey, you should support the Iowa Policy Project, because we're doing things that at least keep the debate honest when maybe some others are falling short.
How did the Iowa Policy Project, all these years I've never asked, how did it come to...
That is actually how it came to pass, is that Mark Smith, who was at the time, not the legislator Mark Smith, current legislator, but Mark Smith, who was the president of the Iowa AFL-CIO, and David Osterberg, who had served in the legislature, and
right,
professor at Iowa and so forth, and Cornell, and they got together and decided that we needed I'm going to use a think tank, but we needed a think tank or a research organization, a research-based organization to counter things that were being put out by David Stanley's ideological group down in, at the time, Mount Pleasant. Now they're in Muscatine. But they were affiliated with Iowans for Tax Relief.
Right, right. What was the name of that? Are they still in?
I think they still exist, and I don't see a lot of them. It's called the Public Interest Institute. Is what it used to be called. I see things now. Most of the things I believe that I see on that is labeled from Iowans for Tax Relief now.
Right, right.
But Mr. Stanley's passed away, and this is a different operation. But it's still an ALEC, American Legislative Executive Council friendly organization. Those they're really ideological organizations. And one of the things that attracted me to the Iowa Policy Project when my wife and I sold our weekly paper was that this was going to be something that was going to be based on really raising facts and sensible, responsible analysis to a high level to counter the ideological ones. I mean, so we're not, we don't have a political arm. We don't have any, financial connections other than, anybody can donate to us, and we welcome all those, but we don't have, some political operation that's, our shadow funder or something. We don't have that kind of a thing. And that's one of the things that attracted me to the operation, and that it was going to be done a lot by, a lot of the original model was that we were going to hire research to be done by college professors and instructors around the state, and that we would, package the information and put it out. And as the organization evolved, we thought it was better to have our own staff, and then we still do call upon college professors to help us on some things. But we're mainly a staff-run organization. Kind of a rambling response, but the long and the short is we try to make it possible for people to engage their elected officials, to talk to their friends and neighbors at the coffee shop or over the backyard fence about these kinds of issues that affect them, and to be able to use understandable, clear data, solid data to support their understanding and arguments. And it's a big challenge, as you say every time we come on. The question about whether facts matter, and so that's our job, is to at least give them a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's so getting back to this issue of jobs. We had this several years ago when Governor Branstad had his promises for 200,000 jobs in 5 years. And they were playing with the numbers on a special line on the official spreadsheet that cut out the job losses in a month and only counted the job gains, and then that's how they came up with eventually came up with their 200,000 jobs. But it's still in reality, it's still only about halfway there.
Okay.
Past that, it's very job growth in Iowa has been staggeringly slow since the Great Recession, and it's not. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that this is that's not Terry Branstad's fault or Kim Reynolds' fault or the Iowa legislature's fault. It's really hard for state policy to make that kind of an impact on jobs, to have
it really is
200,000 jobs in 5 years. I mean, that was really asking a lot, but they really push that narrative, and we're successful doing it to some degree. Although I will say that is something where the media did stand up. We were calling attention to what the real numbers are, because we've been following job numbers really since we started, and knew that these numbers weren't anywhere close to what the governor was saying. And we exposed that, and many in the media, at least the larger media, did cover that, Todd Dorman in the Gazette was one example. Danelle Eller in the Register was another. They did keep a good spotlight on what the reality was on those numbers. So that all that is by way of saying that when Governor Reynolds came into office, one of the first things she did was take that line off that spreadsheet. And we thought this was great. You know, she's not going to play this game. But the latest job numbers came out, and we're playing games with the numbers again. Anyway,
well,
maybe that was a 1 month thing, but we just have the point of that is that we can't be making policy based on this, you know, what sounds good. It makes us all feel good about how great things are. There's a thing the governor's office put out this week about, I think there were 80,000 new jobs, the Iowa Works program. Governor is highlighting these 80,000 plus job opportunities in Iowa and calling this a reason for strength in the labor market. Well, I really question that. I mean, it seems to me that we have that many openings. Why aren't people filling the jobs?
Well,
one of the reasons might be pay.
Well,
we are typically a low wage state.
Oh, we're typically a poverty state. Iowa has turned into a poor state since globalization, since the Clinton administration, and it's something that has I have talked about for years on the radio. I'm watching these debates the last two nights with the Democratic hopefuls, and it seems like they just suddenly discovered working people again after all these years. You know, it's painful to watch these people and their endless pandering. They have been talking about the wonders of trade deals and NAFTA and all the great things that are coming about in our economy because of it, and passing bills that offer tax relief to companies to actually leave the country. And that has been a bipartisan effort. Until we can, as voters, rise up and demand that our leaders pay attention to the people of the United States and their needs, they're never going to do it. The big money that the Democrats and Republicans depend on will go away. Unless we can make them more fearful of us rather than that money, we don't have much of a chance. And you know, Mike, there was Webster City Products, Frigidaire, over in Webster City, just a short distance from where I'm talking to you now. And at its peak, it employed 2,500 people. And 3 generations of people made their lives making washers and dryers over there. That entire plant now sits right across the border in Mexico. They closed it a few years ago, took a management team from Webster City down there, and the management team helped train the new Mexican workers, and now that's where your appliances are going to come from. And that story goes over and over and over and over and over again. That's how Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton always bragged that they brought the money and the voters to the Democratic Party. Well, they brought the money. Okay. I mean, if you have big corporations who want to move whenever they want to from country to country to country, my God, they moved to China. China became too expensive, so now they're in India. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's the real deal, Mike. You know, and I don't know what the answer is, but those barking people on the stage the last couple of nights probably is not it. You know, hopefully we get more ag-based people to in our part of the world anyway, to expand and do more with us. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Well, we have to make a priority of getting people's pay up, or they're not going to come here. They're not going to want to be here.
Well, that's right. You have to get
to the extent that we can push that through public policy, or at least support that through public policy. That's among the kinds of things that we're going to look for responsible ideas to push forward with. And I don't care which party adopts them, but right now there's certainly the leadership in the state of Iowa is not adopting.
Well, I think what we need to do is write a $500 billion reparations check. That'll help us out. All right, Mike, thank you so much for being on.
Have a good one, Mike.
All right, Mike Owen with the Iowa Policy Project has been our guest. The news is next, and we'll talk with Tim Kreinbrink, Senator Tim Kreinbrink. We'll find out just a little bit about Badger Fest, which is coming up this weekend. All right, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3 o'clock.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in North Central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Back-to-back sell-offs on Wall Street. Lisa Brady, Fox News. The Dow down 283 points at the bell, tumbling after a tweeted announcement of more tariffs on China. Fox's John Roberts at the White House.
The Secretary of the Treasury, Steven Mnuchin, and the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer returned from talks with the Chinese in Shanghai last night. They briefed the president just before noon today. Now, while more talks are scheduled with the Chinese for September, the president is sensing that China is trying to slow walk a deal here. So he is trying to light a fire under President Xi.
In a string of tweets, President Trump lists examples of China failing to live up to pledges made during negotiations, saying an additional 10% tariff on remaining Chinese goods would kick in September 1st. The Dow swinging more than 600 points from a rally into negative territory. Late reports that North Korea has launched some kind of projectile, third launch in a week after 2 recent missile tests. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is currently in Asia, set to meet tomorrow with officials from South Korea and Japan. A controversial immigration proposal advances in a key Senate committee. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham says he can't wait any longer to move on asylum law changes intended to reduce a humanitarian crisis on the southern border.
There's a crisis that's turning into a disaster, and somebody needs to shut off the flow.
Graham's proposal would require Central American migrants to apply for asylum at processing centers outside the U.S. It would also modify U.S. law to allow families to be detained for longer than 20 days. Top Democrat Dianne Feinstein objects.
If the Statue of Liberty could weep, she would.
It's unlikely the proposal would go anywhere in the Democratic-controlled House. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. Again, stocks tumbling. The Dow drops 280-plus points. This is Fox News.
Attention military service members. If you use dual-sided combat arms earplugs during active duty between 2003 ringing in ears, hearing loss, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Contact Thomas J. Henry for a free and confidential consultation. Dial pound 250, keyword service. Call Thomas J. Henry now and get the money you deserve. Principal office in San Antonio, Texas. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text message from the station.
This is Peter on his motorcycle.
The open road!
And this is Peter off his motorcycle.
Please move your paper off my desk. Thank you.
On his motorcycle.
I feel so alive!
Off his motorcycle.
I feel like we covered that already, so...
On.
Wow! Look at the ocean!
Off.
Look at this article I found about urban planning.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
President Trump heading to Cincinnati for a rally tonight, the day after Democrats faced off in their latest 2020 debate. Former Vice President Joe Biden telling reporters earlier today, the world has changed since President Obama.
President Trump has turned it upside down internationally. He has turned it upside down economically. People are hurting badly. There's no response.
Biden says he hopes future Democrat debates can focus on fixing what's broken. Day after his latest showdown with rivals, including Senator Kamala Harris.
I mean, I'm not going to tell other candidates what to do, but I intend and hope to focus on the conversations that are productive.
Harris today also slamming the president's trade policies, calling him irresponsible. But President Trump, speaking to reporters as he left the White House just a short time ago, defended his actions again, saying China is devaluing its currency. He has also argued that if any of his Democrat rivals get elected, it would be good for China and bad for the U.S. It's like a joint manhunt by the U.S. and Mexico. The FBI Fugitive Task Force asking for help to find 12 suspects who fled south of the border.
Some of the cases are recent. One is as old as 1993.
12 men, all wanted for murder or attempted murder, are believed to be in Mexico.
I'm coming towards the end of my career, and I'm trying to bring closure. I mean, not only to the families, obviously, but to me in some respect.
FBI Special Agent Scott Garriola says some had ties to Mexico. Others may not have, though. But he says he knows some are getting help from people here in the U.S.
At some point, you got to do some soul searching. If you're a friend or a family member of these people, and say, do I really want to protect this person and let him get away with this crime?
10 of these fugitives are U.S. citizens whom he says do not have to be extradited from Mexico. If caught, they can simply be deported. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News. Recapping Wall Street, the Dow down more than 1% in the end. Oil prices plunging nearly 8%. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast-charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50% of its electricity from renewable sources. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A mix of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 82. Southeast winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 62. Tonight, daytime highs approaching 81. Tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Low 80s Saturday, mid 80s Sunday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com, or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. We're doing it today again, making radio great again at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. What a gorgeous day. What the hell are we doing inside, Senator Tim Kreinbrink? Why is this?
We should have had a mobile unit today.
I should have. I should have put this thing out in the parking lot. Watch the world go
out
by.
on the golf course.
Oh, there we go. Now we're talking. Sat in the easy chair, watch the world go by. I should go out the Growth Alliance golf course.
Well, I was just talking to someone, I think it's the Young Professionals. They actually had a prize and a gift card for the worst drive.
The worst drive,
contest.
really.
So you might have won that.
I might have won that. You know, we should get a group together called the Old Professionals. Advancing the interests of older professionals in the area.
None of us would remember when the meeting
That's
was.
probably true. Also joining us is Carol Hansen of the Badger Fest committee. How are you, Carol?
I'm just fine. And yourself?
I'm excellent. So Badger Fest is this weekend. Does it start tomorrow or Saturday, or when does it start?
It starts Saturday.
Saturday at what time?
August 3rd. And we're going to have a little Miss and Mr. Badger Fest in the parade and crowned at 10 o'clock in the morning.
So when's the parade?
And
Before
the parade
that?
itself starts at 10:30.
10:30. So you're going to do the little ones first.
Yes.
Then the parade at 10:30. How
Yes.
many displays or floats do you have?
We're going to have, right now we're sitting at like 38.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's
yes.
really good.
Not all floats. We got horses and
tractors
and tractors.
Antique tractors and
Yes,
stuff. Sure.
Yes, yes. And
Well,
then
it's Iowa. Come on.
You betcha. And of course, with Badger Fest, you know, the main focus is on children. So we're going to have a day of activities for the kids at the library.
I know some people from Badger. I know
You do?
Supervisor Dinklaw. And I think the
Ah.
main focus for some would be beer drinking.
Oh, that comes afterwards.
That comes afterwards. Are you going to have
We're
a
going to
straight?
meet out in the cornfield.
Oh. No. I think Knuckleheads will be full that day, won't it?
Oh, yes. I have to say, that's probably the only time I go there. And then at Knutson Park, we're going to have a horse and pony rides.
Horse and pony ride.
Yes. And the Army's going to be there with that climbing wall.
The Army.
That'll be on Main Street.
Okay.
We're having a softball tournament at noon
Mhm.
at Peterson Ballpark, and for the over and under 40. So you'll have to come because I know
Sure.
you're under 40.
Me and
Is that waist size?
Yeah. I wouldn't even make it waist size, I don't think. I don't know what he's talking about over there. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, mine's under 40, but after about 2 hours of that, you have to let the belt back out.
And then following the parade, though, at about probably 11:15 or 11:30,
Right.
we're going to meet at the Veterans Memorial Park, and we're going to do a salute to our local veterans.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and VFW from Fort Dodge will be there, and then the 133rd unit out of Fort Dodge.
Okay. All right.
And then we're going to have karaoke contest. You guys got to come for that. That's at 1 o'clock on the main street on the stage. And something new this year is called a tombola raffle.
I have
It's
no
almost
idea what that
if
is.
we have a bunch of items, and then you can just buy tickets, and if you have the right number or whatever, then you can win a prize.
You get a pick out of what's there.
No, whatever ticket number you
Oh,
have,
okay.
you just buy a bunch of tickets, and whatever ticket number corresponds with the gift.
Okay.
And then we're gonna have water fights for the kids at 2 o'clock.
Excellent.
And if a few adults want to get in that'd be kind of cool too.
You hardly ever go to Knuckleheads, Carol.
Pardon me?
You hardly ever go to Knuckleheads?
No, I really don't.
Really?
No, but I'm going to go if the Cubs get in the World Series this year. You know.
Or you're going to go to Knuckleheads if the Cubs get in the World Series?
No,
They got a World Series watch party there.
I don't know. I'm gonna ask though.
Well, you've got
Maybe I should start
you've
one.
got the t-shirts on,
Yes,
t-shirt on, so you're ready
Yeah,
to
I
go.
was going to say you got the Chicago Cubs T-shirt and the whole thing. What? They won't let you out of the convent to go to knuckleheads or what?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we don't want to get that started. You're either Lutheran in Badger or you
Yeah.
keep moving, boy.
Exactly.
Yeah, isn't that about the truth?
Move
And then at-
west to Clare.
West of Clare, there you go.
At 3:00, and then we're going to have a grease pig contest.
Grease
And
pig.
that's going to be at Peterson Field.
I think
and
I
that's
entered one of
hilarious.
those once, me and another guy.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
You better
I
have
think
that
it's
before
funny.
or after the softball tournament because
It is.
yeah, that might make the ball a little greasy if they get some on the
They
grass.
did that last year, and I was standing there, and there's a little boy next to me, and all of a sudden he starts crying, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Oh, that pig out there is just crying right out loud, and I can't."
Oh, they get to squealing out there. There's no doubt.
No, isn't
But a bunch of teenagers pile on the poor old pig. out there.
Yes. And then at 4:00, we're going to have a lineup for a car and motorcycle show. And then that actually starts at 5. And then we're going to have trophies for that.
It's at the park.
No, that's on Main Street.
Hmm.
And then at 5:00, we've got Danny Whitson. He's going to be live entertainment. He's acoustic.
Okay.
guitar. And then at 8,
You want me to come up and sing anywhere?
would you please?
I would.
Karaoke.
Okay. All right.
Karaoke.
I'll meet you up there. And then at 8:00, we're going to have the DJ Mojo Productions Entertainment,
All right.
and they'll perform to midnight.
Okay.
And I'm the MC.
Look out.
I'll be wearing this.
So you're going to be wearing that? You're pretty flashy, I'll tell you. If you want to see what she's talking about, I got a picture of her on my Facebook page. AM 1400 KVFD. I just posted it. There she is, standing next to Senator Kreinbrink with her Cub shirt on. So
It's that little one.
it's she's the shorter of the
Yeah.
two.
If you have any trouble picking
Figured it
between the
out.
two of us, she's the shorter one.
All right, Carol Hansen.
That's the nicest thing I've been called all day, Carol.
Carol Hansen with the Badger Fest committee has been here. Thank you so much, Carol, and
Thank
we'll
you
see
for
you in
having
Badger
me.
on Saturday.
You betcha. See you
Okay.
next year. too.
Yes, you will.
See you later.
Well, you don't get out of the house much. Knuckleheads twice a year and in here once. You got to get out. Or once a year. Oh, you got to get out more. All right.
You got everything?
You got everything? Yep. All right. See you later. Thanks for coming. All right. You can't go, Tim.
No, actually,
Oh, yeah. You're going to give me that schedule. Yeah, Badger Fest.
actually, I'll be in York, Nebraska on Saturday at one of my first boss's 65th wedding anniversary.
Well, that's
so,
very nice.
Yep, be
Very
fun.
nice.
That'll be a fun event.
Yeah, 65 years. Wow. Who
That's a
stayed-
lot. That's a lot of years.
That's a lot of years. You don't hear that much anymore. You really don't.
My mom and dad had their 65th this summer as well. So
Wonderful.
yeah,
Are they living where?
they're in Dallas Center.
Dallas Center. Okay. But they lived most of their lives in Polina.
A third in Sioux Center and third in Polina and a third in Olwine.
Okay.
And now they're starting their last fourth, I guess, and hopefully they make it to 100. They're 80. They'll be 85 next summer or next spring, and so they're in Dallas Center in a independent living and a care facility down there.
Okay. Senator Tim Kreinbrink is our guest. If you have a question or comment for Senator Kreinbrink, it's 515-955-1400. Usually Senator Kreinbrink is just a warm-up act for the Scrapster. We haven't seen the Scrapster in a while, so I don't know what he's
Scrapster's out in the field probably counting his stand and counting the rows and the kernels and the length of them.
He
and-
got his spraying done. He's chilled for another
Yeah,
month. And, that's about it. I'm not looking for you to give a preference or make an endorsement, but I know you serve with Randy Feenstra down in the Senate.
Yeah.
I've met Randy several times. Nice guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got a shot at the Republican nomination in the 4th District?
I think it'll be a very good primary. I think his chances are probably better if there aren't so many, in that right now there's 4 in the primary and, you have to get to 35%. So, right now, I think there's your group that really likes Steve King and there's your group that really don't like him. And if you spread that group out that doesn't like him between 3 different candidates, I think it makes it harder for someone to probably beat Steve King. So Randy's got his work cut out for him. He knows that. If you looked at the fundraising results, he's killing it.
He's killing it.
He's doing a very, very good job. The funny thing is about Randy's district up there is that most conservatives, when they run on the state level, count on that Northwest Iowa corridor.
Yes, they do.
Up there
That's what elected Kim Reynolds.
for 90% of the vote,
Right.
in that area.
Without Steve King pushing that district toward Kim Reynolds, she's
Right.
Fred Hubble beats her.
Right.
Then she turned around
And I think that you've got your group up there that Randy now kind of finds out what it's like to have to work, because I think he told me once he never had bought a sign or had never been in a parade or he never knocked on a door when he ran for the state Senate. And
Sure.
he's been in the Senate for 16 years,
That long.
and so if your name is Dutch up there,
Yeah.
you're pretty man, you're conservative, you're pretty
in.
much in.
Yeah.
So, and Randy, I have to give Randy credit. He's a smart guy. He
is a smart
he has done our tax reform bill. He's done property tax bill. He's and he's basically constructed all of that and lobbied for it and got him passed in the state of Iowa. And so there's a lot of good things that Randy has done, and he understands the system very well and very well spoken.
He is.
He's not a lightning rod. He's
He's a little bit of a lightning
he
rod.
kind of.
Have you seen his
he kind of
YouTube
blends in.
channel?
Oh, see, I don't.
He goes off.
I don't get on that stuff,
Okay.
but I can see where Randy gets a little passionate.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, but if he's getting passionate, he believes in what he's talking about.
Oh, sure he does.
So
Sure he does. Absolutely. I talked with Jeremy Taylor here a week
yep,
or two
Jeremy's a good guy too.
and he's a supervisor, Woodbury County
Yep.
supervisor. And
I think he's in the guards. He's a chaplain, right?
yes, he is.
Yep.
Yeah, he is a Christian conservative
Yep.
man. And
And the guy from Ames, I don't really know very well.
I don't know him at all. No. And the Democrats are going to, and I keep telling them this, forget about J.D. Scholten, but they're going to put him up there. J.D. Scholten is just straining at the leash. He wants to be the Democratic nominee.
And he worked hard last time.
He
man.
worked
was
hard.
all
He
over
worked-
everywhere.
And King ignored him and nearly got lit up. I think there's 3-4%.
Well, at the end when Congressman King was running commercials from 2 years ago, that he wasn't prepared to,
He was not
to have
prepared.
to spend money, and so they just dug out the bulldozer commercial,
Right,
and,
right,
and the
again.
cornfield commercial, and
Mhm.
started running that, and kind of to save that spot. So
Well, I think he knows he's in trouble this time. He's been back here a lot. Of course, what's he got to do in Washington, D.C.?
right, but I think a lot of it's going to come down to the fundraising and
Yes, it will.
and who were supporters of one that's now supporting a different one, and I think that's pretty important to what your campaign is going to look like.
Well, the Republicans at the national level seem to want him out, even at the state level. I mean, Kim Reynolds, again, Steve King saved her candidacy for governor, and she's turned her back on him. So,
Well, and I think a lot of them at that level are not willing to endorse either. Which
well,
is
Joni
probably
Ernst
the right thing to do.
should be endorsing somebody, I would
Right.
think, but she
Well,
didn't.
they all served together in the Senate.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Joni's and also Governor Reynolds served with King and with Feenstra. I mean,
Was Governor
they were
Reynolds
all
a senator,
yeah,
or was
she was
she
a senator.
Okay.
And then Joni Ernst took her spot. When she went to the governor, lieutenant governor,
Lieutenant governor.
and then she went to the U.S. Senate, and and then we got another one from that area. But they were all in the Senate together
Sure.
at one time.
Wow. Well, maybe I could see it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's King's been a warrior over there in the 4th District for a long time. He has stood up for what he believes as well. I cannot see hatred in him. I guess I really don't. Some people see prejudice, and perhaps I'm just missing something, because Congressman King's a very cordial and likable guy, and maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see the sort of hatred that others assign to him.
Well, I think a lot of it is kind of like President Trump. President Trump gets away with it.
Yes, he does.
I think Congressman King says a lot of the same stuff, but it's twisted in a way that people brand it, and then if it's just short snips on the TV or whatever, everybody starts to believe it. And no, I know Congressman King as well, and he's not a racist. He's not a white supremacist. He is just that a lot of the things that he says, should he say it all? Probably not.
Probably
But
not.
At the same point,
Sure shouldn't have talked to the New York Times.
like you said, it's still, there's not hatred there. He's not a hateful man.
No. I went around and around with that term white supremacist. I didn't think at first it was offensive, but there's so many definitions for it. And a lot of the definitions I think are pretty extreme that I have just, I've let go of the term entirely. It's been co-opted. There was an article yesterday in the paper, in the opinion, in the opinion part of the Des Moines Register, a young woman, apparently with a Latin American ancestry, who lives in the 4th District. She talked about, taking control of the language to prevent racism. And sometimes I think when terms like white supremacists get turned so ugly, I mean, the way I took it was white supremacy and being proud of your heritage, which I am, you are, everyone is. My God, what are we supposed to do? Just like ourselves?
Right.
That seems rather ridiculous. That's the way I first took it. It was like you were proud of your heritage.
It's almost to the point now, though, if you are proud of your heritage and it's not what someone else believes, then you're wrong.
Well, we cannot let that happen, though.
But it is happening.
That it is happening, and it's because people don't have the guts to stand up and turn
And I
around.
think a lot
that
of
is
it,
that is propaganda and an ugly lie.
and I think a lot of it is, even the term racist, that term has become so loosely used that
Exactly.
that I don't even really know what the meaning of racism is.
Yeah. Well,
Is it a thought, or is it a something you've said, or is it how you acted, or anything anyone does can be construed as racism under the current definition.
Yeah. Well, I would here's my definition of racism. If you believe that you are superior to a person of another ethnic group because of your ethnic group, I would have to say that you're a racist.
I agree.
And by the way, there are black people who talk about their physical superiority a lot in sports. And does that make them a racist? I don't really think so. I mean, blacks dominate sports. I mean, look at football and basketball,
Exactly.
especially.
No, it's a discussion that I'm sure over the next 10 years, we'll see raise its ugly head many, many times, and until we come to an understanding that it's not healthy for us to divide each other.
I had a
And-
problem with this young woman's opinion yesterday in the Des Moines Register, but it seems she was asserting the right to define racism and other common terms for us. And if we didn't accept those terms, we were racist, which is
But that's kind of what's happening.
That's kind of what's happening.
now,
Yeah.
and
the Des Moines
s-
Register put it in their opinion section, so they must have found some credence with it.
So what happens is then people just don't talk. Then it shuts down the
But
discussion.
that's exactly what these people want. They want to shut you up. They don't want to hear your ideas.
Well, they want to shut the discussion down, which
Yes, they do.
which isn't healthy.
No.
It isn't healthy to make it better.
60 years ago, it was you were a communist.
So you have a group of people. It's kind of the same way that President Trump was elected. People just didn't want to argue with anybody else, or they didn't want to give their opinion, because every time you said your opinion, you'd get slapped down by somebody you were talking to. So they just went to the ballot box and voted. That was their way to talk. And that's why the polls were so out of whack, is because nobody talked to the polls. They didn't want to get in that discussion. And so what the polls thought was going to happen didn't happen, because people just didn't want to get involved.
Well, we can't let the language be co-opted. Frankly, that would be a disaster. We would, I've been accused of all kinds of terrible things on this radio station. A few years ago, people accused me of favoring rape, being in favor of rape. Can you imagine that? Rape is one of the most horrible crimes ever, an ugly, vicious thing. Oh, you're pro-rape.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But that's what it's come to.
That is what it's come to.
It's come to that kind of defense.
It was a
If you
staggering.
if you don't have anything else, then you go to something that's so shocking that it just shocks people into this quietness.
Yeah, and think of the power that gives some people who do not deserve to have that authority.
Yeah.
Tim Kreinbrink, this is what you are, and you can't argue with me. Period. End of story.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Mike Devine, you're a rapist or a
Yeah.
pro-rapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still staggered by that.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we going for break?
We're going for break. Senator Tim Kreinbrink is here.
Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
I have 60 rounds of freedom with me at all times, especially now. It's 3:29. Just, it's great to have Tim here, but I'll tell you, it's even better when the Scrapster's here. But if anybody's seen the Scrapster, would you have him call the studio? I think he's missing. We should put his picture on a milk carton or something. Anyway, the news is next.
Meaningful memorialization starts when loved ones talk about what matters most.
Grandpa, this card asks, what was your favorite vacation?
Well, we didn't go on vacation when I was a kid, but our family did go fishing when we could. My dad could always find the best fishing holes, and he taught me how to clean the fish too.
You mean you ate the fish you caught?
You bet.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50% of its electricity from renewable sources. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A mix of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 82. Southeast winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 62. Tonight, daytime highs approaching 81. Tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Low 80s Saturday, mid 80s Sunday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 80.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 7.5 to $3.92 3/4. December down 7.5 at $4.02 1/2. March down 7 1/4 cents at $4.13 1/4. May down 6 1/4 to $4.19 3/4. August soybeans down 17 cents at $8.47. September down 16 1/4 to $8.52 3/4. November down 16 1/4 to $8.65 1/4. January beans down 16 1/4 to $8.78 3/4. September wheat down 11.5 at $4.75 3/4. Soybean meal down $5 a ton to $293.20. August live cattle up 97 cents at $107.87. October up 107 at $108.72. August feeders down 30 cents at $141.22. September down 92 at $141.52. August lean hogs down $2.52 to $76.80. October down $3.52 at $67.47. I am Dwayne Murley.
Summer is the season for wild berries. Hi, I'm Julie Harker, and this is Healthy Living on Brownfield. One of the most popular wild berries is the blackberry, and they grow among thorns. Wear long pants and long sleeves when picking them. Other wild berries that are summer favorite are mulberries from the mulberry tree. Their fruit is dark and juicy and kind of look like blackberries, but there are no thorns involved. In fact, you can put a blanket or cloth under the tree and give the limbs a good shake to get the mulberries to the ground. You'll have to compete with wild birds and animals for these berries because they love them, but there are often plenty to go around. Now, with gooseberries, when they're unripe and still green, they're used for pies. When the gooseberry ripens, though, it's red and sweet and quickly consumed by birds. Blackberries and mulberries are also great for pies and cobblers. All of these wild berries are good for you, rich in antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins C and K. The Missouri Department of Conservation says it's important to make sure you know exactly the berries you're picking so they're not confused with something poisonous. And ask permission from landowners whose berries are on private property. Sharing with them is a good way to spread out the harvest. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention military vets and current soldiers who served between 2002 to 2016. Have you or a loved one suffered hearing loss or tinnitus after serving or while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces? You may be entitled to compensation. 3M, the manufacturer of earplugs made for combat, recently paid the government $9.1 million to settle a False Claims Act case for knowingly selling these defective earplugs. If you or a loved one suffered hearing loss due to defective earplugs, call us now for a free case review. Call 800-590-4514. That's 800-590-4514.
At Menards, nobody beats our prices and selection, so you always save big money on home improvement. Cover your floors with beautiful new Shaw woven back carpet and get free pad after rebate. Huntington plush carpet in 2 colors, just 59 cents a square foot. For kitchens and baths, Hudson Click vinyl plank is waterproof and has an attached pad, just $2.99 a square foot. Sale prices are good through Saturday, August 3rd now, during Menards' Red Hot Sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Guys, waking up over and over to pee is not okay. You can reduce those nighttime bathroom trips with the ingredients in Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced. You can try a full 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. No strings attached, no obligations, and no commitments to buy. Call 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Well, there we go. Now we know why bad things happen to me here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and in the room with me now is Senator Tim Kreinbrink. And you're not transgender or anything over there, are you? Because I'd be a little freaked out if you were, you know.
I can't disclose any of that.
You know, that's something that's going to happen, isn't it? You guys tried to keep the poor taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, because without transgender surgeries, the transgender people will harm themselves. It'll be all our fault. So we better pay to have their stuff whacked off, you know? That makes moral sense.
Now I'm seeing why people don't like you.
No, come on, man. You got to know what I'm talking about. Is that moral reasoning or what?
It's interesting, put it that way.
Oh, you're so diplomatic today. You are so
well, we were just
diplomatic.
talking over the last 10 years, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, we never would have dreamed it would have been something we'd be talking about.
I mean, who would have thought? If I'd have said that 10 years ago, nobody would have known what I was talking about.
Right.
Not transgender. What is that?
Oh, now we have a transgender weightlifter winning the women's division, and and it's like nobody knows what to do.
Well, anyway, yeah, it's too much for me. So it's completely too much for me.
You know, one of the things that I think we'll be looking at this year, which I know our listeners have probably seen a little bit about, especially in the last couple months with some specials that have been on TV, is classroom behavior and the education of some of the children in our schools that are a little bit more at risk as far as behavioral.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you mean they're little monsters?
Well, and I think what's going to happen is we talk about having teacher shortages, and we talk about all of this stuff, and kind of adds up of why you would like to be in a classroom like that and have to put up with that every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the teachers are probably teachers as well as administrators, and some of the parents that have children in classrooms that have disruptive students, and having to pull the entire classroom out while we let one or two students have a temper tantrum or whatever happens.
And tear up the classroom. There's been video,
I think
of very young children, 7 years old, running around, tipping desks over.
Teachers getting stabbed with pencils
and all these things. And the teacher retreats and takes all the kids out of the room and lets this kid carry on.
And I think that's one of the
should have
things.
gone to St. Cecilia's Academy in about 1963. The old nun would come down the doggone aisle and put a knot on your head. By the way, I still got them. I still knots and dents in my head. And if I went running home to mommy, the nun smacked me, she'd say, "You deserve it."
That's why they call you knothead.
That's right.
But anyway, I think that's one thing that on the education committee and DOE with the Department of Education, I think it's one of the things we're going to have to look into. And
is this a federal? Is this a federal?
I'm thinking some
is this
of
from
that
the
is,
Obama? Is this another one of those touchy-feely Obama things?
I don't know the entire rules and how things are set up.
He charmed a lot of people right out of their virtue.
But that's one of the things I do have to find out from our superintendents and is what is the proper procedure, and if so, why, and if that's the way it is, what can we do as Iowa legislature to help support our administrators and teachers, to let them keep teaching the 21 or 22 students and be able to remove that one or two and not have them immediately back in the classroom. I mean, there's stories out there that are some school districts, none in our district that I'm aware of, but they to pull the kids out of school and they put them in a room with an iPad, and so what kid wouldn't want to, disrupt, so they get out of that classroom situation and into a room with a couch, and they're sitting there, looking at or playing on games on the iPad. If that's true, then that's wrong. And then there's things like that I think our teachers and our administrators are looking to us as legislators to help, them in these situations. And our parents, if you were parents of one of the kids that was disrupted and your kid was there to learn, which all of them are, I understand, but they're being cheated out of learning experiences because of this behavior,
We've gone too far.
then we need to fix some of this. If we can do that legislatively, I would be glad to champion any of that, any of those laws that would help, preserve the education of our young children.
I'm in favor of that too. Actually, parents of my generation pushed back on the idea of physical discipline by teachers because of our experiences when we were young. Man, I saw some kids clocked pretty good in school, and a couple of teachers were bad teachers and had it in for a kid. So when we got,
I'm not saying that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't believe in that either.
I understand that.
But I don't believe that you can't remove the disruptive child.
That's it. Well,
See,
of
that,
course.
that bothers me.
That bothers me terribly.
I'm not talking about knocking them out before you drag them out the door. I'm just talking about taking them physically out of the classroom.
No, I'm not trying to
the
lay anything
disruption is
on you,
done.
but I'm just saying that we've gone too far the other way.
Right.
We've gone too far the other day. I'm not suggesting, ladies and gentlemen, Tim always tries to paint me as this bad guy. I'm not trying to suggest we go back to the bad old days when nuns would literally come into the classroom with a big ruler and smack you alongside the head with it.
See, I always thought a lot.
Or they call the gym teacher, and the gym teacher was an ex-football player who'd bounce your head off the locker.
I always thought this stuff, Mike, was just made up. You know how things when you're younger,
right?
And then you keep embellishing these stories
Oh,
as you
no.
get older. I was thinking maybe that's what happened with you guys. I would said you were hit by the nun, or your knuckles were slapped by a ruler. Or,
Knuckles?
I always thought that this was just like stuff you guys embellished.
This
as
is a
time
true
went on.
story. When I was a kid in the 4th grade and you got sent to the first aid room, that meant
First aid
room. You had to go to the first aid room.
So you had to go there before you were hurt?
Before you were hurt. Because the nun was coming in and you might need first aid, and sometimes you were, but you never got out of there. And we could hear it down the hallway without a big thrashing with that ruler, and our mothers were on the sideline. Oh, hit him again. It was a definite, they're sinners. Beat the sin out of him. Beat him for Jesus.
Mike, it sounds like you know a lot about this room.
I do. I went to the first aid room a few times. I went to the first aid room a few times. There's no doubt.
But not to make light of it, because I know that this is it's a statewide and probably a national problem.
I'm sure it is.
And I think the legislators, us as legislators, we need to come up with some solutions or help lobby the federal government if that's where these rules have come down from. That the teachers, have more power to teach, because that's what they get paid for. They don't get paid for putting the classroom back together after everything's disrupted. They get paid for it, but they shouldn't have to do that, And, part of our shortage of teachers, not only is pay an issue, but discipline's an issue. Who year after year after year, want to have your hands tied. So the majority of stuff that you're doing isn't even, not majority, but a large amount of things that you're doing aren't even instructing the children. And
you were a school teacher up in Barnum.
I was, but I never had any of these problems.
Never had
But
any
it's 33 years ago, Mike.
Yeah, sure. I understand.
And young adults, which they were, most of them were high school students. I mean, they wanted to come to my class.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an easy class because I got the ones that didn't really like the schoolwork. They liked hands-on building, tearing motors down, putting them back together.
Is that what you did?
Welding.
You were an industrial arts teacher?
Yeah, and they loved that stuff.
Oh yeah, I did.
And I don't know if we offer enough of that anymore to catch the interest of these children that are the behavioral problems. But also we have schools that are suspending kindergartners. Well, you can't send a kindergartner into an industrial tech room.
Well, I just got a text. The Northwest Webster kids were the best.
They
kind
were.
of a questionable source here, though.
I have to tell you, I didn't have her in class.
You didn't have her in class. Huh?
She thinks she's young, but she wasn't that young.
She wasn't.
I did have her brother though.
I'll tell you, and this is the truth. This is how long ago I was in school. I'm not going back to outdoor toilets by any stretch of the imagination. But when we were in junior high, we got on the bus and went down to Bode, and they still had outhouses behind the houses in Bode at that time. So I had in school, are you ready? Gun safety class. We got the VFW guys would come down in their little hats and they would show us how to use guns. You know, they just assumed that we were going to need to know how to use weapons.
I walked behind a student into school that had a put together shotgun.
Yeah.
Had the shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
He was walking, never got stopped, nobody even looked at him oddly. You know, it was 34 years ago.
Yeah.
And walked back to the shop and laid it on the shop table. And he tore it down when shop class and he re-blued the metal,
Right.
and he sanded down and refinished the stock and made it just absolutely beautiful. And could you imagine
No.
that happening today? I mean, and that's just how this whole thing has just changed.
It has.
You know,
It's got
I wouldn't want to go back to those days because the craziness that we have. I understand that you can't take guns, but at that time, 34 years ago, there weren't rules about that. I mean, the superintendent, the principal, were right there in the building, and to walk right through the cafeteria back to my shop and lay it on, you know, I mean, nobody stops and, hey, is that loaded or not, or anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't in a case. Just walked right in, and in class time, he tore it apart and started to work on it. Took him 2 months to get it totally done. And when he went out of there, he showed it on the night of the industrial arts program to show all the projects that were
At that time, we had more guns and fewer problems. Now, because of the breakdown in our society, foisted on us by liberals primarily, we have these terrible, awful incidents with guns. But I don't want to get, I'm getting too far afield here.
Right.
I want to talk with you about what we can do, what you as a state senator can do about the situation that we're talking about, mainly that a child can be disruptive. And I mean, as young as second or third grade can become disruptive. The teacher, nobody can seem to be able to do anything about it. So all the kids and the teacher have to get out of the classroom until the kid's done throwing a fit. What can we do about that?
Well, that's what we have to check into. We have to talk with our superintendents to find out what laws are on the books. We have to then see if there's anything possible that the state can do, or if it's a federal thing that we have to lobby and try to help our federal legislators write laws to, because I know for a fact this is a national issue. It's not an Iowa issue. It is Iowa, but it's true all over.
Sure.
Nebraska, Minnesota. You know, I've got nieces that teach in those two states, and they have the same policies, and they're getting stabbed with pencils just like our teachers are getting stabbed with pencils. You know, and if we stick them right back in the classroom again, you know, really our teachers don't have a leg to stand on, because they're sitting there, they did what they thought was right, and now the kid knows what they can get by with just to be sent to the principal's office or the first aid room.
Right. I have a question here for you, a message this time. Ask Tim if he is going to make dumping liquid on crops a stiffer penalty. Now, I've texted back what kind of liquid, and he's answering me, but
it's probably the manure.
Are you talking about the manure again? I made a lot of money dumping manure on fields back years ago, 15 years ago.
Are you talking about a spreader or just a liquid? Because there are rules, and Mike would probably know better than I, but there are rules that it has to be applied properly.
Right.
And applied properly is not just flowing it over the top of fields, you know, as long as it can be applied. But I think if it's a later period of time, where the ground is frozen and they can't apply it properly, then I think there is a period of time where they can do probably what the message person is concerned about, and that's putting it on top of the snow or on top of the frozen ground.
Well, we went through that a number of years ago. When I first started doing it, we had to be so far from any water source. Right. You know, if there was a creek or a stream, we had to watch for wells, but the farmers usually knew where those were.
Well, another thing that you're gonna think is strange is that, you know, we used to own a lake house up on Lost Island, and when we went there initially, you know, our kids, we couldn't see 2 feet down because it was so dirty, you know, dirty in the way of ground particles because there were a lot of carp in there, and some of the water that was coming in was, I'm sure, flow off fields,
Right.
and kind of what the message person was asking about. Now, this year I get emails from people that we all know that own up there, and the water is too clean. And I noticed this the last year there we were up there about 4 years ago. We were taking out the dock and the kids get in the water, and I looked down 6-7 feet and I could see their feet in the water.
Really?
Yeah, I could see it just as crystal clear as can
Wow.
be. Well, now the water is so clean that it's caused growth of a whole bunch of seaweed. Okay, to the point where they can't even run their jet skis and their boats because it chokes their motors. So, but see, that's a sign of that's a sign of clean water. Okay, so now you got to say, okay,
Now,
well,
what's the sign of clean water?
is vegetation growth.
Okay. All right.
Because it gets the oxygen,
Right.
from the sun, and photosynthesis, and
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And so now we have people that think that Lost Island's too clean. Okay, and so when you're talking about water quality, it took a long time for our water quality to get to the point where it was, and it's going to take time for that water quality to get back. But we have streams up in northeast Iowa that used to support. There were streams that there were 4 of them that had trout. There's 78 of them now that are trout supporting streams. I mean, so the water in Iowa is moving in the right direction. And the farmers get it. They understand it. It's no different than anything else. You have the farmers that abide, and you have some that maybe don't. But I would say the majority of our farmers are kind of like deer hunters. If you have open deer season, true deer hunters don't want the population of deer to go away. I mean, that's something that they love doing, and so they're always going to advocate for a deer population that continues to populate, so they can do what's fun, what they think is fun. And it's the same with farming. There's no farmer out there that intentionally wants to hurt the water, the quality of our water in the state of Iowa.
I know.
And if you think there are, you need to talk to these farmers, because we do, and they have that as one of the foremost things in their mind, that they love Iowa, and they want Iowa to be here for their kids and grandkids.
Sure, a lot of them are on Century Farms.
Yep.
I mean, it's Grandpa's farm.
So things are going well, almost too well in some situations, because the people that are contacting me want some balance. They don't, I've got pictures of people at Lost Island with 2.5 feet of seaweed piled on their dock that they have fished out with rakes and hooks so they can get their boats in and out to recreate. So how would you like to do that every morning?
Not much. We're running out of time here. I do want to ask you if you know Jerry Foxhoven.
Yep.
Who's been in the news. What is that all about?
I can't speak.
Former head of DHS, and apparently the governor's office has been using DHS funds to pay for an extra staff member or cabinet member back to the time of Tom Vilsack. And Jerry Foxhoven signed off on that twice. There was an MOU that he signed twice that he understood what was going on and he approved of it. Now he got fired, and all of a sudden this is a big, terrible thing, and he's going to sue. He's going to drag the governor into court for unlawful termination. How does that work?
I guess my thought is
he's not gay, so he's out of luck.
I think
he's not gay, not transgender. I mean, he is
unlawful termination probably is another current term, but
he likes Tupac Shakur. He's a 65-year-old man who quotes Tupac.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Is it something with
Tupac
chicken pox?
Tupac Shakur. Actually, he was. If you listen to his music, he was. He did have a certain poetry, but he's a rapper that's been dead for 22 years.
I have no idea what it even is, but I think there's probably more to the story that'll probably come out at some point. I mean, that's my thought. I don't know, so I can't speak intelligently to it.
Do you know Foxhoven personally?
Yeah, no, I've dealt with him and talked with him several times on issues that I've always said that if we have issues, we need to work with the DHS and get some of these problems figured out. So I've always had a good relationship with that department.
You don't find him in his office dressed in a toga.
I've never seen his office. If I talk to him or his representative, they're most of the time they're in the Capitol.
Well, some others have told me that Jerry's a little eccentric, and the Tupac Shakur thing is.
I've been even in several meetings that he has had with defending the current system, the privatization of Medicaid, and
he has, but he's defended that.
I thought he handled himself very, very well.
So I don't know. He didn't get along with somebody somewhere.
There's more to the story. It's just like everything else, and the rest of the story.
I will ask though, in regard of the lawsuit against former Governor Branstad, how in the world is any governor now going to discipline a gay person? I mean, all that gay person has to do is say, "You're firing me, you're disciplining me."
Well, I don't think it's as much disciplining as he was just changing his.
Yes, he was
changing over from Vilsack to him.
He disapproved.
And he didn't really disapprove. Most of those positions are filled with people that are appointed by the current governor.
And the governor was in his rights to reduce his salary.
It probably wasn't any different than what Vilsack did to the one before.
Yeah.
He
probably not.
He probably had not fired, but let them go because they weren't part of the administration.
That's right.
And I don't know that either because I'm not real intelligent in that area, but it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Thank you, Tim. Senator Tim Kreinbrink has been our guest at 3:00. KVFD Fort Dodge.
The president turns up the heat again on China. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News, and he's defending his latest tariff threat even after it sent stocks tumbling as the president heads to Cincinnati for a rally tonight.
The president prior to departing on Marine One, defending his announced plan to impose new tariffs on $300 billion in Chinese imports starting next month.
President Xi, who's somebody I like a lot, I think he wants to make a deal, but frankly, he's not going fast enough. He said he was going to be buying from our farmers. He didn't do that.
The 10% import penalty will start September 1st, a cost that would mean almost all goods sent to the U.S. from China would face tariffs. The tariffs could push the cost of many consumer products higher in the second half of the year.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. What had been a rally turned into a sell-off on Wall Street. The Dow dropped 281 after a more than 600-point swing to 26,583. The president also offering his take on the Democrats' latest debate.
I think Biden did okay. He came through. He came limping through, as I say about Sleepy Joe. He limped right through it, but he got through it. He really did. I think he was okay. I think Kamala had a bad night last night, I would say.
Senator Kamala Harris says the president has broken promises to help working families and farmers.
As far as I'm concerned, this president has been highly irresponsible on many levels and on many issues, including trade.
Former Vice President Joe Biden, also speaking to reporters in Detroit today, says he hopes future debates will focus more on fixing what's broken now.
Look, folks, there's a lot of things everybody has done in their past in votes that no longer have a context today. They're taken out of context.
And while Biden says he expected to be attacked, he suggests Democrats should not attack the Obama administration record. This is Fox News.
Attention military service members. If you use dual-sided combat arms earplugs during active duty between 2003 and 2015 and then suffered tinnitus, ringing in ears, hearing loss, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Contact Thomas J. Henry for a free and confidential consultation. Dial pound 250 and say keyword service. That's pound 250, keyword service. Call Thomas J. Henry now and get the money you deserve. Principal office in San Antonio, Texas. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text message from the station.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our many hilarious commercials.
Hi! Did you know that you can get a quote on your motorcycle insurance in under 3 minutes at Progressive.com? And did you know that saying hi makes even bad news sound good? Hi! You have high cholesterol! Hi! You're fine!
And this is what that same commercial sounds like on your motorcycle.
Hi! There's no more pain!
Yeah, even our commercials sound better on a bike. And with basic policy starting at $75 a year, Progressive helps keep you on yours. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
The U.S. Navy confirming that the pilot of a fighter jet that crashed yesterday during a training mission in California is dead. No identity released yet. 7 people on the ground were injured when that jet went down in the Mojave Desert, all of them visitors to Death Valley National Park. only minor injuries. The president gets what he wants from the U.S. Senate, a budget deal that runs past the 2020 election, despite concerns about federal spending.
With President Trump's support and the backing of GOP leadership, the Senate approved a 2-year budget and debt limit agreement, 67-28.
We have to invest and improve readiness to help our military commanders plan for emerging challenges.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell highlighting increased military spending under the agreement. Democratic leaders want higher spending levels for domestic programs. In all, the legislation sets an overall limit of $1.4 trillion for the upcoming fiscal year and sets aside the U.S. debt limit for 2 years. Opposition still came largely from Republicans who argued the legislation abandons fiscal discipline. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A fast food king is dethroned.
According to Market Force's annual satisfaction survey, In-N-Out Burger is no longer the reigning fast food restaurant in America. The West Coast-based chain, which held the top spot last year, dethroned by Chick-fil-A. Over 7,600 polled on their dining preferences, In-N-Out receiving an overall loyalty index of 73%. Chick-fil-A locking in the crown with a 79%. In-N-Out not even placing second, a Louisiana-based chicken restaurant, Raising Cane's, earning that spot with a loyalty score of 78%.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. One other note stemming from Wall Street's sell-off today, oil prices plunged nearly 8%. Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50% of its electricity from renewable sources. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast.
A mix of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 82. Southeast winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 62. Tonight, daytime highs approaching 81. Tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Low 80s Saturday, mid 80s Sunday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 80.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Congratulations to Good Samaritan Society Manson on their recent 5-star rating awarded by the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Good Samaritan Manson received a perfect 5-star rating for their outstanding health inspection results, staffing ratios, and quality of care. Their compassionate and dedicated team of employees sets them apart from other senior living centers in the area. To learn more, visit good-sam.com or drop by anytime. Good Samaritan Society Manson, when someone you care about needs caring for.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. We're a full-service funeral home with an off-site crematory. At Bruce's, we specialize in pre-arrangements and family support before, during, and after the service. We also offer beautiful memorial items to help you remember your loved one forever. Bruce Funeral Home is proud to be by your side every step of the way throughout the funeral process. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and we're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Our guest once again today, and we welcome to the program Dr. Dean Stanzel, who's an economist of Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Dr. Stanzel, as many of you know, since he's been a contributor to this program for many years now, is with the O'Neill Center. What is the O'Neill Center, sir?
The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is a research center in the Cox Business School at SMU here in Dallas, and we were established by one of our alums, William O'Neill, who also was the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. And our focus is studying the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. Our website is o'neillcenter.org. That's one L, ONEIL.
I have a Facebook page at AM 1400 KVFD, and Dr. Stanzel usually sends me at least 2 pieces for discussion. And you'll find the first from the online magazine, The Hill, at that Facebook page, AM 1400 KVFD. And it's called Marching Toward a Debt Crisis. Dean, come on, man. We're marching toward a debt crisis every quarter, it seems like. And in that whole debt ceiling thing, that's more of a concept than a reality, isn't it?
Well, in some ways, it is definitely something that the Congress essentially, it's a statutory limit they imposed on themselves many years ago, and they have over the last couple decades had to repeatedly raise, essentially think of it as like a credit card limit, right? They keep bumping up against their limit, and they raise their limit. The difference is that they're determining how much their limit is, whereas with a credit card, you've got to get the lender to approve. But yeah, so in some ways it's a manufactured crisis, I suppose. The reason it's in the news is that, Congress likes to adjourn in August and take some time off. And the latest, everyone needs a vacation, I guess. It's got to be a tough job. Anyway, the latest projections are that we will hit that debt limit in, I think, early September, presumably while they're still out. So there's some pressure on themselves to clarify all this before they go home and I guess basically probably spend some time campaigning or doing whatever they do.
Oh, I would think they're going to campaign. Absolutely. Maybe they'll do nothing. I don't know. I've done a lot of nothing this summer as well. I had some vacation days and I used them.
There you go.
And I didn't think about the debt crisis once. If there is a term that's overused when it comes to the economy, is debt crisis. I mean, we have been facing debt crises for years, and I'm beginning to wonder about the degree of crises that we're facing now.
Sure. So I mean, there's certainly some fatigue here on this issue because we've heard it so many times.
Oh yeah.
But there was a chart in so Chris Edwards at Cato wrote the op-ed you mentioned, and there was a short blog post. I think there's a link in there to it where it has a chart from the Congressional Budget Office showing federal debt held by the public since 1790, basically back to the beginning of Congress, and it's it's been on an upward trend ever since about 2000, and so of course this is showing it as a percentage of the economy, as a percentage of GDP, and of course in war times it'll spike, right? So World War II is still the all-time high, but we're now at the peacetime high and rising, and we're above World War I, Civil War, all that, and we're getting close to World War II, honestly, and there was a comparison to other kind of market economies. 33 of them, we were ranked 9th in terms of how much debt we have as a country, government debt as a country, compared to these other high-income nations. So we're not doing so well. And when you factor in the state government stuff, state and local stuff, we're already over 100% of GDP. We're at about 110. And when Greece had its crisis, they were at about 121%. So we're getting close to Greece levels, Michael. So that's something to worry about. I think that's not something we want to emulate.
Well, I would point out, and your friend Christopher Edwards here in his piece in The Hill points out that in 2008, prior to the run-up to the financial crisis of 2008, there were a number of economists, perhaps even you, Dean, who missed the whole thing. Didn't see it coming. Oh, what happened? Oh, the economy collapsed. Wow, we didn't see that coming. There are various reasons given for the Great Recession. Of course, I think the mortgage brokers really screwed everybody and took all the money and went home. But just to revisit real quickly, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, why did we have the Great Recession of 2008, in your opinion?
Sure. So that's a long story, but I'll try to make it a short story. So your analysis, I don't want to dispute entirely, but one of the reasons the mortgage brokers and the finance people in general were able to do that is that government let them, government bailed them out. And one of the reasons that the problem existed is that things like the Community Reinvestment Act, a government policy, required these lenders to make a certain percentage of what we would call subprime loans to risky borrowers, and so all of that stuff kind of built on itself, and you had a lot of speculators in the market buying to flip the properties, and eventually it all kind of like a house of cards fell apart. So sure, we're really bad at predicting stuff, and in fact, there was
she doesn't want to let me go. We don't touch people. You're not allowed to touch them. I'm trying to go through.
Yes,
man, you don't want me to walk through. It's a public.
It was a couple years in a row where we had a surplus, and there was I think the administration itself, or the Congressional Budget Office, was projecting that federal debt, not just the deficit, but the accumulation of debt over the years, would actually hit zero pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because, and of course, that never happened. It turned out to be they were projecting it to happen by 2015, and by 2015 we had $18 trillion of debt. We're up to about I think it's 22 at this point. But anyhow, yeah, we're bad at predicting things, no doubt. But the biggest issue here is that if you think about where the interest rate trajectory is going, I don't think you have to be an excellent forecaster to say it's probably going to get higher. But it's already gone up some, and the reason that's a problem is the bigger your share of debt you have, the bigger pile of debt you have. As the rates go up, of course, you're paying more on that debt. So interest payments become a bigger part of the budget. You've got to raise taxes just to keep up with that. And so certainly that, it's an issue. And the real issue, when it comes right down to it, the debt limit, you're right, is kind of this manufactured thing. It's all about spending. I mean, we're spending about twice as much as we were back about 15 years ago, and so it's that these guys and in this you've got the Republican in the White House, and until last November you had Republican control of both houses, and they go in there and they just keep spending even worse than the previous administration, and so it's spending that's the problem. As I think someone said, it's the spending stupid, or maybe I'm mixing the metaphor, but it's the spending that really represents. I think it was Friedman that talked about Milton Friedman, that the government spending is the true burden on the economy, because that shows all the resources being diverted away from markets to politicians.
I know you're going to take me to the Laffer curve here sooner or later, but I want to follow up a little bit. You talked about a budget surplus under Bill Clinton, who was certainly not my favorite president. George Bush then became president and started 2 wars and lowered taxes. Now that ever since then, we've had a lot of debt. I guess what I'm getting to
but
is,
also before then we have.
Yeah, that's true. And you and I have talked many times over the years that running up a debt, running up the deficit, is something that both parties do for their own reasons. A lot of times just to benefit their own congressional districts or whatever, or their own state or their own party. I mean, when you put a bunch of people in charge of taxes who've never even met a payroll in their lives, even the Republicans have no idea what it means. Oh, we have debt? Well, we'll just raise the debt. Can you imagine somebody in business doing that? Hi there. I'm tapped out. I'll just raise the debt limit. Hey, how's that?
Right. Well, they couldn't unless they had a willing lender, right? So
right.
Yeah, that's just
yes, exactly right.
The politicians are living in this kind of fantasy world of their own creation, and you're exactly right that putting so many things in the hands of politicians is a bad idea, which is all the more reason why we ought to have government only do those really small number of things that we really can't do for ourselves. Instead of expanding it to more and more pockets of the economy, we ought to be radically shrinking it so that people can keep more of their own money and thereby make better choices with how that's money used, rather than letting these career politicians do it.
Now, the Laffer curve, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, essentially it means the more you cut taxes, the more taxes come in. That is from an economist by Arthur Laffer.
Okay, can I modify that slightly?
Of course.
Okay, so what Laffer was kind of capturing really from Adam Smith back hundreds of years ago was the idea that there is a kind of a tipping point where revenues get so high, tax rates get so high. In other words, say the income tax rate, was at 90%, I think, when President Kennedy took office back in the 60s, where it gets so high that if you raise it more, people are going to earn less income, right, by working less or sheltering more of their income, so that you'll actually bring in less revenue. It's not that it's always that way, but it's that there is some kind of peak tax rate where above that, increases will reduce revenue, and therefore below that rate, decreases will increase revenue. And that was essentially what Laffer and as an advisor to Ronald Reagan's campaign argued was the case when I think, if I remember right, when he was running, it was 76% or somewhere around there. It was still quite high. They were essentially saying that at that high of a rate, not at any rate, but at that high of a rate, if you lower it, we'll actually bring in more revenue, because you've got a lot of people who are sheltering their income, and that income will come onto the books, essentially.
Well, that's the whole idea sometimes of controlling interest rates, as we have been, is to get people with money to invest it in the economy, to start businesses, to do a lot of things. There's a lot of money in very few hands. Well, we'll talk about the failure. Well, we'll talk about the failures of capitalism here a little bit later on, but we will move on here to a piece from Markets Insider, also sent to me by Dr. Stansel, of course. President Trump has thrown an event for American manufacturers from each state. This is American manufacturers, but it left out the countless others that are struggling with his new trade policies. I turn now to Iowa for more on that. And in the northwest quadrant of Iowa, it's a very rural part of the world. We're farmers, essentially. We used to have manufacturing. Eaton Corporation, there was a big furniture factory in Milford, Iowa, by the Iowa Great Lakes. Those places are gone now. 16,000 manufacturing jobs have left Iowa over the last several years. And of course, we have these tariffs and trade wars with China, and the Democrats are making us suffer here in the Midwest because we supported Trump by not passing the USMCA and keep adding extra demands on and on and on. The Democrats, by the way, I don't care what you think of Donald Trump. The Democrats are behaving abhorrently in all of this. Their tactics are just disgusting. But don't let me get started on that. Anyway, at his Made in America showcase, what are we talking about here, Dave?
So it was basically a PR event to promote his protectionist policies, and he brought in one company from each state, so the whole country was represented, and it was out on the South Lawn of the White House on Monday, yesterday, and it was, like I said, just a PR event to promote all the good that his policies allegedly are doing, and I'm sure there are some companies like the ones he brought in who they weren't I assume weren't lying. They actually have benefited in some ways, but as the headline points out, and as the quote from the soybean farmer in Iowa illustrate, it's not true for everyone, and these tariffs are creating a lot of trouble for business in general, in the sense that even for manufacturing firms who can make the most profit by buying their kind of intermediate parts that they bring here into the U.S. to put together, had to have assembled here in the U.S. by American workers. If these tariffs mean that they then have to buy those parts from somewhere else at a higher price, well, that limits their ability to stay in business and to be profitable. So that's been one of the biggest impacts across a whole host of industries. A lot of the ones, particularly like the boat building industry that uses steel and aluminum, and where there've been a huge increase in tariffs. So the pain has been spread pretty widely, and what's the opposite of the pleasure has been pretty narrowly concentrated, I think.
Well, if we talk to some people in our state, especially from the Soybean Association, the damage may take years to undo, and the damage may be permanent. We don't know. The tariffs apparently are hurting China, but how deeply are they hurting China? Is China can go to other suppliers? Will the other suppliers be able to meet their needs? I mean, it's a real predicament for the Midwest that, yes, supported Trump, and yes, the Democrats are making us pay for it in the worst possible way. So I like Trump's rah-rah. Nobody's a bigger cheerleader for himself than Donald Trump. And if he can talk about the stock market, he can talk about the unemployment rate, all of those things. But there's a lot of pieces of the economy and a lot of sectors that are hurting quite a bit. He's really a conventional Republican president in that he believes if the stock market is performing well, that's really all, and the economy is all right. That's all we really need. Just keep the business taxes low, and the labor costs low, and we'll just roll right along. Trump is not the devil that some people make him out to be. He's a Republican. He acts like a Republican. He's just kind of a bizarre character at times.
That's a good way to put it. At times. He was basically a lifelong Democrat, though. I mean, he is a Republican indeed, and governing in some ways like a Republican, but he is a bit of an oddball for a Republican, I think, with some of the populist stuff that often doesn't fit with traditional Republicans. But you're right about the business approach, in the sense that he has emphasized greatly, importance of the stock market and the unemployment rate. Well, those are the things that are going well. So of course, that's what we're going to hear about. But yeah, all is not well. Hopefully, we can get some reforms and get some reduction in these tariffs, and have some kind of sensible policies put in place, and we can get some common sense notions on spending as well, because there was discussion in the last campaign about the notion that we need to spend less and get slim down government. It's just the reality hasn't really matched up with that rhetoric.
I know Vice President Pence is a committed Christian. I respect that. But I wish he would stop saying we're going to pray for you guys. That's what he said at this manufacturers conference. Prayers sometimes aren't the answer. I'm sure Vice President Pence would disagree with that. But actually, more decisive action is required when we're talking about the economy. And I want to ask you, I don't want to get off into politics here, but I will bring up Michael Bloomberg. Has been both a Republican and a Democrat. And he's very, he is a Republican as others were who are quite wealthy. He is, he insists on cheap labor. He insists on low business taxes. but he's pro-gay marriage. He's pro this. He's transgender rights. All these things. He and of course he's donated a considerable portion of his fortune to fighting for gun control. So Mike is definitely his own person there. He's not a doctrinaire Republican or Democrat. That said, I hope that we can find some way out of this tariff business.
Yeah, it kind of illustrates the fundamental bankruptcy of the two-party system, in the sense that people like Bloomberg or Trump can kind of just shift between one or the other and really not have any major waves being created. And I think it illustrates the extent to which the parties don't really very well represent the views of a lot of us, at least. I don't know if most of us would be correct, but there are a lot more people who are registering as independents these days, and I think that's kind of a sign of the times, that because the thing you described, the notion of kind of being fiscally conservative and socially liberal, is something that ties in nicely with the notion of being a libertarian, and it's something that I think a growing share of the population is kind of in that what may seem like a middle ground of fiscally conservative and socially liberal, that like I said, is very compatible with the notion of libertarianism. And of course, there's always extremes on every direction, but I think that bodes well for the future in some ways, if the politics can match up with if the policies can match up with the politics.
What do you think of the Laffer curve? Did I ask you that earlier? I'm getting kind of.
I mean, no, I think it's reasonable, and I think what I tried to do was explain it in a way that kind of, because I think a lot of times it gets pigeonholed as just plain stupid, when in reality that's because people are overly generalizing what it means. It means if rates are above a certain point, cutting them means more revenue will come in because the tax base will grow, and so forth. And if rates are at a certain point, if you raise them, you're going to bring in less revenue because people will shelter their income. So that I don't think really is all that disputable or controversial. It's just the way in which it's put to use politically, I think, is where the problems start being created.
Dr. Dean Stanzel and I are talking about an article in Markets Insider. If you go to my Facebook page, AM 1400 KVFD, you'll find it. I want to warn some of you farmers out there that President Trump did say during this conference that the United States didn't lose anything by the fact that China targeted our farmers. So I wanted to put that out there. So you were aware of it, so your head didn't explode when you read it, because I know that's not the prevailing opinion out here in the countryside. Dean, is there anything in closing?
No, I think that covers it. But right after that quote, they quote then a soybean grower in Iowa, in Wilton, Iowa, who's kind of refuting that they haven't lost. So very appropriate there.
Dr. Dean Stanzel with the O'Neill Center at Southern Methodist University. Thank you, Dean.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
It's 4:31.
Guys, waking up over and over to pee is not okay. You can reduce those nighttime bathroom trips with the ingredients in Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced. You can try a full 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. No strings attached, no obligations, and no commitments to buy. Call 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859.
Low commodity prices bring stability to used farm equipment market. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. It's been 7 years since corn was above $6 a bushel, and a sales manager with Case IH says buying patterns have changed dramatically in the years that followed. While the rush on new equipment fizzled out, Tony Randall tells Brownfield used machinery has gained in value. More after this.
Iowa farmers are continually striving to improve the quality of our land so future generations can continue farming these acres. And it starts by working together to incorporate more sustainable practices in our fields. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship works with farmers and landowners to implement proven conservation practices that protect water quality and improve soil health. Farmers can sign up now for funding to help offset the cost of trying a water quality focused conservation practice like cover crops. Apply now through your local soil and water conservation office.
Time. It's the eternal measure for growers everywhere, influencing the ebbs and flows of every season. Through it all, Nutrien Ag Solutions stands with you, offering agronomic power, local expertise, and access to solutions to help you lead the field. Because the time to act is right now. Find your local crop consultant at nutrienagsolutions.com.
Tony Randall is a sales manager for Case IH in the Red River Valley. He tells Brownfield the struggling ag economy continues to impact his business.
It's definitely changed guys' buying patterns. We've had some folks who have put off that normal, they like to trade combines at 800 hours. We've got guys now with 1,000, 1,200 hour combines. They're chomping at the bit to get that combine traded out. And we have seen some of those guys trade this year. It has just become a situation of, I put the pencil to it. I can make this work. We're going to have to do it. We need to do it. I hear all those different statements made out there. But those high flying years that we saw a while back when 300 hours was a lot on a combine, those are gone. And I think it's helped give some stability to our market, because that was really tough for our dealers, because there was a huge amount of late model trade equipment, low R trade equipment that came in, and no one was in the market for that used equipment. What the commodity prices have done is they've helped stabilize that market and put people back in their normal buying cycles and their normal buying trends. The guy who buys a 600-hour used combine, he's buying a 600-hour used combine, not a brand new combine.
Recognizing corn is back above $4, Randall says he'd like to think equipment sales are going to pick up.
I like to optimistically think that we'll see some spike, but at the same point in time, I know a lot of guys are going to be real concerned about firming up that bottom line, firming up that balance sheet. And rather than going out and just going on a buying spree, they're going to look to keep some of that money in the bank, keep it around, help themselves out, because is this the new cycle? Is this the new start, or is next year going to be a back down into the doldrums? And we need to have ourselves prepared for it.
Yeah, as you're well aware, that working capital has eroded the last few years.
It has, very definitely. And I've had some producers that, we've had great relationships with, and then they've flat out explained to me where exactly they are in the situation. And it's a tough situation to be in. And I firmly understand where they're at. I grew up a child of the 70s and wanted to come out and farm in the 80s. And from entering college in 81 till the fall of 83, I watched our farm erode away and helped put a farm sale together in 83. So
Brownfield spoke to Randall at the recent Ag PhD Field Day near Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Data from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers says total farm tractor sales in June were down 3% compared to June 2018. However, year-to-date sales of tractors and combines are pacing ahead of a year ago. With Managing for Profit, I'm Mark Dorenkamp on Brownfield.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast-charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50% of its electricity from renewable sources. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 7.5 to $3.92 3/4. December down 7.5 at $4.02 1/2. March down 7 1/4 cents at $4.13 1/4. May down 6 1/4 to $4.19 3/4. August soybeans down 17 cents at $8.47. September down 16 1/4 to $8.52 3/4. November down 16 1/4 to $8.65 1/4. January beans down 16 1/4 to $8.78 3/4. September wheat down 11.5 at $4.75 3/4. Soybean meal down $5 a ton to $2.9320. August live cattle up 97 cents at $107.87. October up 107 at $108.72. August feeders down 30 cents at $141.22. September down 92 at $141.52. August lean hogs down $2.52 to $76.80. October down $3.52 at $67.47. I am Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 81 degrees. That's our day's high, our predicted day's high. Overnight, partly cloudy with a low of 60. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 80. On Saturday, sunny with a high of 83. Sunday, sunny with a high of 85 degrees. Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 86. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 82. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 82 degrees. Right now, again, 81 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucefuneralhome.com. Dean Konvalinka has died at the age of 69. His funeral is Friday at 10 o'clock here in town. Eric Halverson has passed. Mr. Halverson's funeral was this morning at 10 o'clock here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. 441 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 81 degrees.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks tanking after the president said that the U.S. would raise tariffs on more Chinese goods. In earlier trading, the market had been on track for its biggest gain in nearly 2 months, with the Dow falling 281 points, the Nasdaq down 64, S&P 500 down 27. And home improvement retailer Lowe's is telling thousands of store workers this week that their jobs are being eliminated, with the company outsourcing tasks like assembling barbecue grills and janitorial services to third-party companies. The move is a sign that its CEO plans to continue to cut costs aggressively to improve profits. And Burger King will be rolling out its version of the Impossible Burger nationwide next Thursday through September. The country's second largest burger chain began testing the plant-based burger in St. Louis in April, and since that time has brought the Impossible Whopper to 6 more locations. The Impossible Whopper will have a retail price of $5.59, but pricing can vary. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
Hey, my friend's retail store was the victim of IoT password theft.
Yep. Cyber criminals are taking over security cameras, payment systems, and other IoT devices by exploiting vulnerabilities.
What if they target us and our dispersed network?
We're secured with Barracuda. We have advanced firewalls for our sites, enhanced security for our cloud infrastructure, and total email protection.
Such a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
Ernie's Harley Davidson, Cactus Family Farms, and Alpha Media present our Hogs for Heroes Honor Ride Saturday, August 10th. Be at Fort Dodge Ford between 9 and 10:30 to register. Then it's kickstands up for 150 miles of wide open fun on the road. Our Hogs for Heroes stops include the Co-op Bar and Grill in Pomeroy, River Valley Orchards in Humboldt, Johnny's Bar and Grill in Wesley, the Blue Moose Saloon in Renwick, Ernie's Harley Davidson in Algona, and Miller's Landing in Humboldt, where you can listen to live music, eat great food, and bid on your favorite items in the silent auction. Entry fee is just $15 a rider or $25 a couple. All proceeds go to the Brushy Creek Honor Flight. Get a free Hogs for Heroes t-shirt while supplies last. Pre-register until August 8th at yourfortdodge.com to reserve your spot and t-shirt. This special event is sponsored in part by the Western Edge in Humboldt, Iowa Outdoor Store, Hardware and Rental, Fort Dodge, Riddle's Jewelry, Fort Dodge, and Zinnel Roofing in Humboldt. Fire up your bike, your car, your truck, even your minivan for the Hogs for Heroes Honor Ride, hosted by Ernie's Harley Davidson, Cactus Family Farms, and Alpha Media. We ride so they can fly.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Tallies War. More from the Iowa Almanac in a moment.
Hello, this is Mike Chapman. I've had a wonderful life and career, from growing up in Waterloo to being a newspaperman for 35 years, writing 30 books, and being inducted into 11 Halls of Fame. I'm proud to share my story in my latest book, A Journey, Reflections on 50 Years of Writing, Wrestling, Weightlifting, and Heroes. It's available now at totallyiowa.com. My life, telling other people's stories, people you'll know, from Ronald Reagan to Muhammad Ali to Dan Gable, all in a journey. Get your copy today at totallyiowa.com.
When Iowa was admitted to the Union in 1846, it was a free state, but many in our state had loyalty to the South. Those in the North who became involved in helping the South during the Civil War were called Copperheads. They got the name because the loyal Union people thought they were as deadly as the copperhead snake. One of the leaders of the Copperheads in eastern Iowa was a Baptist preacher named Seifert Talley. He was actually pro-peace and spoke often at rallies. One of those was a Democratic Party rally held near the English River on Saturday, August 1st, 1863. After the rally, Talley and his party rode in wagons to the town of South English nearby. The Democrats in wagons displayed weapons, and soon gunfire was exchanged between Talley's people and the equally well-armed people in the town. One person died, Seifert Talley. By the next day, hundreds came to South English. They formed what was called the Skunk River Army. The governor traveled with several hundred troops and cannons to the area, but the so-called army lost its nerve along the way and had disbanded by the time the governor arrived. No one was ever indicted for shooting Seifert Talley on this date in 1863. And that's Iowa Almanac for August 1st. I'm Jeff Stein.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere.
Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens, and they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Okay, we're getting to the end of the show, so we better be a little more mellow here with a little ripple from the Grateful Dead. What great weather we have been having. God, I go to bed at night, leave the windows open, never have to turn on the air. Just terrific. I go for a drive out in the country, and it's just beautiful out there. The crops look wonderful, just deep green against the blue sky. It's these are great days to be living in Iowa. I'll tell you, it's great days to be living right here. I want to say congratulations to Jace Davidson of Pocahontas area. He was presented with his 2019 Male Athlete of the Year honor, and that was presented by Kemna Auto. Kemna Auto presents this Male Athlete of the Year. Pocahontas area, great little school. When I was married, my wife was Havelock Plover, which has since merged, of course, with and become part of Pocahontas area. Apparently, Jace Davidson, a great basketball player, among other things. I've never had the pleasure of meeting the young man. Maybe I'll try to get him in here on the air, along with one of the Kemna Auto people. I'm sure they'd come and talk about his award. And I think that's a good thing that Kemna Auto does. Some recognition for our young athletes. That means a lot to a young person. After a while, when you get older, you get a few plaques. And it's, okay. At least I did anyway. I got a few plaques for this or a few plaques for that. And gosh, what did I? Usually radio related stuff. Yeah, it's been okay. It's been okay. And again, hats off to Kemna Auto for doing that for that nice young man. I'm sure he's a nice young man. It has been suggested that the Democratic Party talk more about how unlikable Donald Trump is. After these last two nights and the debates before these between the Democratic Party candidates, I'd have to say it's a real toss-up now. Who's more unpopular, Trump or these Democratic Party people who are just saying the most bizarre things that I've ever heard? I know Marianne Williamson is a fringe candidate, but she brought the crowd nearly to its feet with a demand that we write a check between $200 and $500 billion just as a way of reparations. And she talked about, I don't know, she was so dramatic. And of course, that's her deal. She's an inspirational speaker and author. Well, she's a motivational speaker. And she knew her crowd, she knew her audience, and she spoke to them. She spoke to the deep white guilt that separate really liberals from conservatives. I don't think I have anything as a white person to be guilty about. I don't think I had privilege in my life necessarily. Not at all, as a matter of fact. There's a lot. I'd say the majority of white people in this country, when they start getting banged on by some freak who's screaming about white privilege, they're wondering what privilege. I work hard every day, they're thinking to themselves. Nobody gave me my job. Nobody kept my job. I received very little help in my life. So what are you telling me that I'm privileged for? I mean, really. My number here, by the way, is 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. The argument, I guess, is that even a poor white person is more privileged than a poor black person. That's true. I would go along with that, but not much. Not much. And maybe even that is changing. I mean, being an African American is pretty hot stuff in some quarters. I mean, it really is. Answer me this. If a wealthy liberal had a choice between hanging out with a couple of poor white people or a couple of poor black people, which do you think that they would choose? They would choose to hang out with the poor black people. Of course, they'd have their picture taken with the poor black people. They'd put it on their Facebook page and Twitter account. Met some amazing people today. Here they are struggling in our racist country. And here I am with them. Doesn't that make me cool? What would they get out of having their picture taken with a couple of poor white people? Oh, I bumped into these two Walmart employees today. It kind of disgusted me. I had to dress them down for how they were speaking and how they were addressing me. I mean, it's a totally different attitude. What I'm describing to you again, yes, again, is the reason American working people should hate liberals, because that's who they are now. That's who Bill and Hillary Clinton turned them into. A middle-class party. Remember when they had that bus, the Middle Class Express? A lot of my listeners are middle class. A lot of my listeners are some of the wealthiest people in this area. But I want to ask you something. If you're out there humping for a paycheck, what the hell do you suppose the Democratic Party is going to say to you? They're going to say, you're privileged. We're not going to do anything for you. Never mind the debates where all of a sudden the Democrats once again rediscovered working people. They're not going to do a damn thing for you. Because there is that deep feeling, that crowd that came to its feet when Marianne Williamson spoke the other night about this deep, deep racism in the United States, and we need to just write this check. As if that's going to take care of the problem. As if that's... And then what do you think, Marianne Williamson? What do you think, Marianne Williamson, is going to happen then? You're going to feel better. That's the entire program of middle-class liberals right there. We need to do something to alleviate our guilt. We need to do something to alleviate our guilt. So we're going to get on the stage and say something like that, and this certain section of people are going to come to their feet and cheer. A lot of them are younger people, but not all of them. These people who came to their feet the other night don't like you, Mr. and Mrs. Working White Person. They don't like you at all. If you live in small towns, and most people within the sound of my voice live in small towns, they don't like you at all. Well, you don't come from a diverse community. Oh, no. As if it's racist to live in Callender. It's racist to live in Badger. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's twisted moral reasoning, but that's who they are. It's twisted moral reasoning, but that's who they are. I mean, look at them up there on the stage. They're terrible. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, wow, she's 5-star hot. I really had a feeling that Kamala Harris had the necessary background, ethnic profile, and gender profile to be the next Democratic nominee for president. And she would, in my mind, a few months ago, been a very, very formidable challenger for Donald Trump. I thought since she was really, I hadn't talked about this before. I didn't really want to admit it to myself. But I thought being from California, a state with 40 million people, I thought she could beat Trump, really. But it turns out she's, kind of exaggerated her career as a prosecutor. Some people cheered when she beat up on Joe Biden, but after all that passed and we kind of stepped back and we looked at Joe Biden, at least I did, and a lot of other people did, Joe Biden, say what you will about him, he was one of the authors of the Violence Against Women Act. He pushed Obama on gay rights, not the other way around. Obama had the very conventional position when he became president, or not when he became president, when he was running for president, that he understood that gay people needed to have some sort of civil union, but he very much believed that marriage was between a man and woman only. Biden went the other way and said gay people need to be married. And Biden has been a party loyalist for 50 years. He has stood strong as a man through some terrible personal situations, through some terrible personal tragedies. Tragedies that would have sent some of those people up on that stage you were criticizing him. They'd sent them to paint seascapes or landscapes somewhere. They wouldn't have been able to handle it. They would have perhaps turned to the bottle. You never know. But they would have withdrawn from public life. Some of them would have. Not Joe Biden. He keeps coming back and coming back like the Energizer Bunny. I don't know if Biden's the nominee, by the way, if I'll vote for him. I don't know if Biden's the nominee, but to suggest, as Kamala Harris accused him of being somehow complicit in racism, is outrageous. Biden worked with people in front of him. This is called, ladies and gentlemen, the democratic process. It forces our political leaders to work together. If Kamala Harris and the rest of those big mouths up there on the stage are successful and become the nominee and become president, they'll have to do exactly what Biden has done his whole life. Compromise. No, the Democrats aren't going to sweep to victory in both houses of Congress. They might lose the House of Representatives because of what we've seen from, well, the Gang of Four, AOC and her crowd, and what we've seen on these debate stages the last couple of nights, or the last couple of weeks, excuse me. Yeah, and the last couple of nights, both. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, it's 5 o'clock. Thank you for listening. And you are listening to AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
On the defensive, I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump explaining his decision to impose new tariffs on $300 billion in Chinese imports starting next month, saying the deal with Chinese President Xi is not going fast enough.
When my people came home, they said, we're talking. We have another meeting in early September. I said, that's fine. But in the meantime, until such time as there's a deal, we'll be taxing them.
This means all goods from China would face the 10% import tax starting next month. The top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, denouncing the plan, saying the president doesn't have any strategy to get China to stop cheating on trade. The president's remarks causing stocks to sputter.
The Dow closed down by 280 points, S&P 500 by 27. The Nasdaq fell by 64 points. Energy, financials, industrials, they were the weakest links. Only two sectors held on to marginal gains, utilities and real estate, two defensive plays.
Deirdre Bolton with the Fox Business Network, and the president now heading to Cincinnati for a campaign rally. Fox's Gernal Scott with this live.
Lisa, one day after 2 nights of Democratic debating, the president is likely to offer counter punches to his potential 2020 opponents. But perhaps there's more anticipation of whether another send her back chant may arise from the Ohio crowd. Before leaving the White House, the president was asked if he'd stop that chant.
I don't know that you can. I mean, we'll see what we can do. I'd prefer that they don't. But if they do it, we'll have to make a decision then.
At a North Carolina rally in June, the chant was aimed at Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar. Thousands have lined up all day in Cincinnati to attend the rally scheduled to start in about an hour, Lisa.
Gernal property owned by Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings in Baltimore was broken into last Saturday. Fox News has confirmed congressional security officials looking into whether this was random or if there's a threat against Cummings after recent comments and tweets by the president. This is Fox News.
Attention military service members. If you use dual-sided combat arms earplugs during active duty between 2003 and 2015 and then suffered tinnitus, ringing in ears, hearing loss, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Contact Thomas J. Henry for a free and confidential consultation. Dial pound 250 and say keyword service. That's pound 250, keyword service. Call Thomas J. Henry now and get the money you deserve. Principal office in San Antonio, Texas. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text message from the station.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our many hilarious commercials.
And basic motorcycle policies start at just $75 a year. I know, right? Do you think I say I know, right, too often? I do. I know, right? I have to stop, don't I? I know.
And this is what that same commercial sounds like on your motorcycle.
I know.
Yeah, even our commercials are better on a bike. Progressive keeps you on yours. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Mark Cady of Fort Dodge assumed the leadership role of two national judicial groups today. He now has become the president of the Conference of Chief Justices and the chairman of the board for the National Center of State Courts. Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center of State Courts, says that Chief Justice Cady has a national reputation for his commitment to the foundational values of the court system. Cady first came to Fort Dodge in the late 70s when he began working as a law clerk for a local judge. He has now served on Iowa's Supreme Court for over 20 years. From Radio Iowa, Mid-American Energy Company is launching what it calls a first-of-its-kind network of electric vehicle fast-charging stations in more than a dozen cities throughout the state. Mid-American spokesperson Tina Hoffman says the plan is to have the chargers available every 50 miles.
One of the barriers to electric vehicle adoption is something that they call range anxiety. So if people feel like they don't know where the next charger will be or how far they can get before they, need to recharge to reach their destination, there's a fear of investing in that electric vehicle.
Mid-American wants to install a DC fast charging site here in Fort Dodge, as well as Altoona, Davenport, Iowa City, Sioux City, and Waterloo, just to name a few. All of those cities are within the company's service territory.
We're looking for partners to host these DC fast chargers and make them available to the public.
She says they're looking for partners to host the chargers so people can use them to charge their electric cars. Hoffman says this type of charger can get people on their way after a short stop.
Those can generally charge an electric vehicle in about 20 to 45 minutes. So a stop at the gas station, or you can run into the grocery store, run a few errands, and your car will be all charged up by the time you get out.
She says they will leave it up to the partners who provide the chargers to determine the cost of a charge. Hoffman says the company is also providing grants to help people buy electric cars.
Mid-American Energy customers that buy or lease a new electric vehicle can get a $500 rebate incentive for doing that.
Hoffman says the company is also providing $1,500 rebates for those who install a level 2 charging station. The company plans to begin building the charging network by the end of the year. Hoffman says encouraging the use of electric vehicles goes along with their plan to eventually provide 100% of the electricity to their customers from renewable sources. She says the company now provides on average through the year more than 50%.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. Thank you for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. Joanne is with us, and Joanne is going to start off this hour from Maryland. Hi, Joanne. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. It's such a pleasure speaking with you. It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
Sure. How can I help?
I just want to get to the point. So I had a small online business account. I had a small business last year, and I opened an account with a major bank, which I had since closed last year also. But during the time when I opened the checking account, I also opened a credit card, which I used one time and purchased a small item for less than $100. I had paid that off, and recently this year in April, I got a statement from the bank stating that I owe them money for late charges. And I called them and tried to resolve this issue, and come to find out the payments that I made last year were reversed by them. But they didn't notify me or give me a call to let me know that they had done that until I called them this April.
Why were the payments reversed?
And that's the reason why I was calling them, because there was no explanation. And every time I called them, I've been transferred to multiple departments, and none of them could tell me exactly why they were reversed.
Okay,
And
so
now they
wait a minute. What did you paid a payment out of your checking account, correct?
Out of my savings account.
Out of your savings account. Okay. Do you not go back and look at your savings account and make sure that it balances?
Well, when I look at my account, it showed that it posted on both accounts, in my savings and in the credit card statement. And then 3 weeks or a few weeks after that, they came back and told me that, no, we credited your account back. We reversed the payment, but there was no explanation as to why they did it.
Okay, so and that was a year ago.
It was last year.
Okay, so you knew it though at the time that it came back, right?
No, I just found out actually this April. And
so
then
you don't look at your checking account to see a reversed charge, but once a year?
I did not. That was my problem. I guess that was my issue. I did not look at that account. And since I had not been happy with their customer service, I actually closed my account with them. And then they just sent me a statement this April. And actually I spoke with
So how much money do they say you owe them now?
It's not much. It's only $60.55.
$60 on a charge that's under $100?
Yes. So those were actually late fees.
For a year
that I owe them for a year. Yes, that's what they told me that I owe.
And you've not been getting statements from them saying you owe money?
Well, this is the first time actually I look at the same. Oh, actually in April, that was the first time I received a statement showing I had.
Okay, here's what you need to do. What company is this?
Bank of America.
No, of course it is. Yeah. Well, that's what. Okay, so you've learned 2 lessons.
Yes.
If you're smart. One is you don't deal with mega banks like Bank of America because they're stupid.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The second lesson you've learned is you have to watch and take care of business better than you have been. You didn't open your credit card statements for a year, and you didn't look at your savings account to see that the charges had been reversed for a year. That's not taking care of business well.
That's true, and I understand that.
And this costs you, so this is what's called $60 in stupid tax. Not looking at your statements or opening them for a year is stupid, so it costs you $60.
Mm-hmm. Should I be concerned about this in the future? Would it bite me in my behind if...
It's going to show that you have late payments on your credit bureau report for a year.
Oh, well, I guess that wouldn't matter because I'm trying to follow your steps.
Yeah, that's not, doesn't matter.
I am debt free.
That doesn't matter much. But here's the thing. When I do something stupid and it costs me money, I call that stupid tax. I have paid a lot of stupid tax. And the good rule about stupid tax is never pay the same one twice.
Okay.
Okay. And there you're paying a $60, which is a fairly light tax. I mean, that's not too bad, for not opening your statements and not watching over your business well, and for doing business with companies like Bank of America. So you learn 2 lessons, both for $60. That's a bargain. That's a bargain. Write the check, close the account, be done with these idiots, because you technically legally owe the money. I don't know why they would reverse a perfectly good payment, but what the heck? Do it anyway. You know, because it's Bank of America. They're stupid. They have no soul. And the best thing to do is not do business with them. So yeah, that's what I would do if I were in your shoes. You know, it's kind of like this, guys. It's the same thing. I never did this, but I had a whole bunch of friends that did this because I grew up in the real estate business, so I knew better. But a lot of people, when you're leaving a rental property, they just move off. the lease is up, and you just move off. And you go, well, I want my deposit back because the property was left in good condition. Don't do that. That's going to cost you your deposit a bunch of times with a bunch of landlords, because they're going to come in and nitpick apart the condition of the property and keep your deposit. Instead, you should always meet the management company or the landlord or whoever on the site after you have moved out and get a signed agreement that the property is in as to the condition the property's in and the amount of the deposit that's going to be returned, and the fact that you've completed the lease legally and in full. You should check into a property when you lease it. You should check out of a property when you lease it with documentation. When you don't, you're going to end up paying stupid tax. Well, I paid the rent and moved off. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And then they go, well, we had to replace the carpet. You go, well, the carpet was fine when I left. Well, no, we're taking that out of your deposit because there was no agreement as to the condition of the property when you move out. It's the same kind of thing. You have to open your mail. You have to look at your business. You can't stick your head in the sand and ignore stuff. You can't half-butt do business transactions as an adult out here walking around and end up anything but losing money as a result. And that's what happened to her. That's what happened to those people I'm talking about. I've done stuff exactly like that too. Can't think of an example off the top of my head right now, but believe me, I've been as stupid as any of you have ever been, and it still catches up with you, and it still bites you, and I still pay stupid tax. That's the thing. So, perfect. That's how you do it. Open phones at 888-825-5225. Thank you for joining us, America, and for participating in this show. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. We've been voted one of the best places to work in Nashville 11 times. You want to know how we do it? Well, our team has been using LinkedIn Jobs for years to find the best people from all over the country to come and help us change lives. Think about it. LinkedIn has more than 600 million active members. I'm talking about people who come to LinkedIn to make connections, grow their careers, and discover new job opportunities. In fact, 90% of LinkedIn users are open to new opportunities, but not actively scanning job boards. This means LinkedIn Jobs gives you access to an entirely different demographic. Don't wait. One hire can change the direction of your company. Post a job today at linkedin.com/Ramsey and get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/Ramsey. Terms and conditions apply.
In order to juggle the demands of work and home, I have to get a great night's sleep. Hey, Rachel Cruz here, and that's why I'm a huge fan of Tuft & Needle. You can get the best sleep of your life on a Tuft & Needle mattress. Tuft & Needle makes quality, affordable mattresses starting as low as $3.99. And for the warmer weather, nothing beats Tuft & Needle's Mint mattress, complete with cooling gel and graphite to keep the air circulating and your sleep from becoming a hot mess. Try it for 100 nights risk-free at tn.com. And remember, it ships for free.
Business leaders, one of the smartest benefits we offer our team